because I can.
Incoming transmission.
Welcome to Saving Star Trek, a show talking about one of my favorite shows, Enterprise. I am Linda Park. I play Hoshi Sato and also Empress Sato. So enjoy this show. I love that it's finding a whole new life on the streaming services. And you better hit that like button or Empress Sato will not be happy. I mean, she could make a storm happen and she could really make your life hard. Anyways, enjoy the show, hit that like button, and thank you for being a fan of Enterprise.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, your buddy, Admiral Teag. It's good to see you out there. Welcome. What a weird day. We got people on X, we got people on YouTube. We might have to start going back to the green band. And could you do me a favor? Could you tweet out that I'm live? The YouTube-ish people, they don't like to turn the light on that much lately. And we've got all sorts of weird stuff going on. I think one of the things they're a little annoyed about is I haven't made an upload in a while. And if you don't keep them happy by balancing out the uploads and the live streams, they sort of start to take it out on you. And one thing they do is some people get unsubscribed. My thing is they just don't let people know I'm live. And yes, I am drinking soda. I know it's bad for me, but it's really good for my voice. So welcome everybody. Like I said, tweet out off the browser that I'm live, wake YouTube up, give me a hand with that one. It would help. It's appreciated. Right now, we are celebrating 2,100 people. It took a while to claw our way up to this, and it's great to be here. Out of nowhere, to have 6 of you listening to me, it's amazing. It's amazing that even one person would show up, and I always come with a plan, because not to come without a plan is to plan to fail, right? So here's the plan. Today, let's catch up, let's hang out, and let's talk about a couple of things going on. There's a few things. At the top of the batting order is Yellowstone. When people tune in later, and these shows do enjoy decent re-listenability, you know what? People are interested in Yellowstone 1923 Season 2. And what does that mean? That means that we have to return to the Dutton Ranch and find out what the hell happens after that last standoff where we ended last season. Things were really tense when we stepped out. I've made a video you can check out about this. It's up on YouTube right now. It's every character you need to know in 1923, and I've made some predictions for Season 2. One thing I did get wrong, I misidentified Liz. I was definitely wrong. That I thought it was Alex. Liz and Alex both have blonde hair and dark eyebrows. And what was weird was it looked like she was in a ship, but she was actually in like a structure. So like when I watched it again, I was wrong. But my predictions about the character remain unchanged because when we do see Alex, her hair does seem to be longer. And at some point, I'll predict this right now, but implied in what I said is Spencer and Alex are going to reunite. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube and a lot of stuff that is being said authoritatively that just was more implied in the show. So I've figured out a lot more about the lay of the land in Yellowstone since video one. And a lot of it's been from researching. So welcome to everybody. It's nice to see you here. We got some comments rolling in. Let's see who's out there. Outlaw Bill, Sci-Fi Mombi. It's good to see both of you. And like I said, Bob Uecker passed away. I was, you know what surprised me about that? I thought he was already gone. He was a little younger than I thought. I thought he would have been weighing in at like 99, right? He's 90 was what I found out, which is, by the way, a pretty good run. Bob Uecker, he found fame like several different ways. At first, he found fame as baseball player with skill, right? Like, so he had the skill to be a baseball player. I think he was like even the backup catcher, right? He's like a total utility player at best, and his skill was that he was just good enough to command a salary that made it worthwhile to keep him in the majors for someone if you needed to throw someone into a game. And he could handle it, and he could probably call a game. Who knows how he was early in his career? That's the Bob Uecker. I remember him as a player even. Then the next thing with Bob Uecker would be he finds fame again as a TV sitcom guy, and he doesn't have the biggest part in the sitcom, and also like as a baseball analyst, right? So he's in his old field of baseball. He's calling games here and there. He's in Major League. He's like well known as like a baseball guy. Like he's showing up at all baseball events. You can't do anything without him. In a way, he's got the bull by the horns. Like if you want to be successful later in life, Bob Uecker is in fact like someone to look to as an inspiration in this world, because Bob, like the last thing he finds fame as, because he keeps finding fame, and at some point it's him, right? At some point it's him. It was him when he found fame as an athlete, but when he finds fame for like the fourth time or the fourth reason to be noteworthy, because like I guess that's what it is. Bob Uecker piled on several noteworthy things. He was noteworthy as a baseball player who kind of spoke in Yogi Berra-ish kind of terms. He was famous again as a TV character. Famous again for analyzing baseball, all these things sort of coalescing after the baseball career, right? And then the last thing he cashes in on is that he gets a beer commercial that's so funny that's based on the fact that he's a celebrity of a different kind, a D-list celebrity, something we didn't see before. Yeah, 1923 season 2 begins in February of 1925. Hey, Mr. House Party 6, good to see you, as we're up to 10 viewers between the two platforms. And I don't know. X seems to be beating me up. I think maybe what I might start doing is going on X and then going on YouTube. It's hard to tell. I know I need to change my avatar, my bio, and my information, which takes your blue check mark away and your ability to broadcast for like 5 days. I can't let their ineptitude get in the way of me doing a broadcast. Also, I'm finally on there with a better microphone, and hopefully, how's the sound out there? Is it rich and beautiful like I paid good money for it to be, or is it still terrible and horrible like I paid good money for it not to be? Finally, I just bit the bullet. I got the Blue Yeti USB mic. Not crazy about it. I preferred the SLR style mic more, but it was unreliable. Hopefully, this has a more consistent sound. And if you notice, Admiral's here alone. It's going to be Admiral solo a lot more often. When we get into gaming, it'll be me jumping into some gaming streams. I will finally learn OBS. This is what I do now, right? When I stream, I have to learn these things. And sometimes just gaming is a great outlet and a great way to relate to people. So I'm going to be trying to do some of that. Here's the deal with 1923 season 2, as far as we could tell. Now, the last trailer is still from December, but let's go over what we know. So grab your rifle, as the article in Entertainment Weekly started out. because it's about to be a land war. 1923 season 2 promises epic battles and Dutton destiny, right? So, a war for the land. The teaser trailer sets the stage with Jacob Dutton's declaration of war over the family land in Montana, signaling intense conflict. And I think it's actually Spencer Dutton who says in Montana there's a war raging over my family's land in the trailer. I might have written that incorrectly, but that's the voiceover, right? And we see sort of the acts of violence that transpired over season 1 and a couple of things from the end, especially the end of season 1. So basically, it's a little like Game of Thrones in 1923. By the way, season 2's it. There's not going to be a season 3. That's what they're saying right now. So I don't know. I've also heard tale of 1933. Tracking that down, 1933 seems to be a misnomer. It was the original idea for 1923. And forgive me for the construction noise, but that's just the way it's got to be. Big city show, big city area. Hopefully it's not too bad. You said 1925. I think I said February 2025. Don't call you a liar. You're not a liar. It's February 25th of 2025 was the date I think it is. I might be off by a day or two. We have plenty of time to get that one together, but we got a harsh winter and new threats. Here's the deal with that one. Last year, we started out with Harrison Ford sort of drinking in the devastation. If anything, like they're counting on us to know things that the characters don't. Now, that's not a big deal when we consider the things that we know that they don't are history, American history. There was a really bad period of ecological unrest or whatever you want to call it. There was a problem historically in the 1920s and 30s where there was a dust bowl. There's a lot of things have been attributed to it. No one can go back there with like modern equipment and retro analyze it, but there's some pretty viable theories. Some is, that a lot of ecological threats that were recurring happened at once, along with some bad farming ideas, and that no one compensated or offset things. I don't know that this kind of thing could happen again. We may have better land management these days, but basically a lot of ad hoc farming and a lot of subsistence farming ends up, hey, Rocco the Brave, good to see you. Thank you. Greetings. No, the noise is awesome. I feel like I'm working in New York, lol. Is it loud though? Can you hear me? I guess you do hear the construction stuff. What can I do? I can try the noise cancellation. We'll see if it works. Let's give it a shot. Reduce the background noise. I don't know. Let's see. My circle isn't popping as big anymore. I'm not liking that. You know what? We're just going to risk it. We're going to go unprotected into the great wide open noise of New York City. Let me just take a look at this again. Yeah, we should be banging out of here like crazy. You know what? It looks much better now. The circle's popping bigger. So anyway, guys, this is the deal. What am I going to do? If I screwed them down all the way on that one. I screwed them down like all the way. There's only one lower setting. Here's the deal. They don't tell people I'm on unless I turn that on. So my assumption is later everyone has a blocker. Saturdays, my biggest thing, Star Trek. I do not turn on the ads. So that's on me. During the week, very, very low ads. I'm sorry. I assume everyone has a blocker, but I do apologize. I do sound good? Thanks. All right, good. So here we go. Listen, there's a harsh winter coming on and new threats. It's like Game of Thrones. Winter is coming, right? Winter's been coming for a while. We started off, it's hard in all the Yellowstone number shows, not in Yellowstone Prime because I don't know a hell of a lot about it. But in 1923 and 1883, and I finally finished all of 1883. The show's a few years old. I'm not going to totally spoil it, but now that I know the end, I'm not going to play cat and mouse that much either. They do make good on their weird timeline. They'll have to find out how. The watch parties will continue. There'll probably be one tomorrow. They do well. People love the watch parties. The watch parties get good hang time. People watch the analysis. So 1883, we've got to the end of that. We finally understand why and how they got to where they got. And I'm sorry, I'm selectively muting because even though it's the middle of winter and I should be fine and there is no pollen out there, I'm still kind of a little bit sinusy. But we've got this winter coming on and we know that it's going to be another bad year because we stack like 10 to 12, maybe more terrible years in a row. where the winters are bad and the springs aren't very fruitful. Now, these cattle guys, I don't know, like things are really bad for them. And we've got sheep, and this is like a historically accurate sort of conflict here as far as the competition for resources on the Great Plains, especially in Montana. And we found out, without a shadow of a doubt, from third party sources, a couple of things that were only implied, but they're out there in the publicity. For one thing, the school is not a Baptist school or some sort of weird anomalous school. I'll clear that up in the video I'm making. The school that Tiona Rainwater goes to does in fact seem to be Catholic. I thought they were playing coy, but this is historically accurate too. Like the bad Catholic schools on the Indian land it was a real thing. Okay, so that exists. So we'll get into Tiona later. There's a harsh new winter coming on that every character is going to have to deal with. Things were bad in what I perceive must have been a muddy, cold spring. Taylor Sheridan's world of 1923 is always rainy and muddy and cold. There are snow flurries all the time. I don't know how high up in the mountains we're supposed to be, but they do give a physical location, and I have to put it in context. It's Taylor Sheridan's Bozeman, Montana. This means it may not be that closely related to the real Bozeman, Montana. There's some things about it that aren't very Bozeman, Montana-like. So it's Taylor Sheridan's Bozeman. I don't know how else to put it. What's up, John the Beagle Dad? It's good to see you. So in Taylor Sheridan's Bozeman, 1923 was fairly 1923 accurate. Cars were from about that period. There are no old cars because there were no old cars. It's 1923. So we're good on that one. You can't make that mistake when there are no old cars, right? And there's a harsh winter with new threats, and there's new challenges. We saw rolled out that Banner Creighton from Game of Thrones, Jerome Flynn is a great actor. He came across as the biggest threat to Dutton. And we found out that he's sort of immoral and he's sort of a real piece of garbage. He seemed to live like in like a place out in the woods, but the deal is this: he has like a cabin in the mountains where he does his sheep farming, but he also apparently has some kind of house in town. It's real weird. So like he lives with his wife and kid, whatever. Like he seems like he's just trying to get by, but then he shows up in context with two ladies of the evening, right? And like we can't really totally say what they are, but it's real work, right? Anyway, that's Rocco says, I always find it funny when TV shows go back in time and the castles still look ancient like they do today, and they should be looking new. Yeah, in Excalibur, when they're outside Tintagel, there's nothing like the real thing, but it's like, why would you build your castle half destroyed? It's true. That is a real flaw. Like ancient Roman stuff, there's nothing like ancient Rome. Stone probably looks the same. I would say this, like, don't power wash the stone. Like, there's more to be gained analyzing that soot and whatever's on that stone than power washing it off to make it look new again. And it would probably look pretty dingy straight up, right? But anyway, in 1923, they do a good enough job with locations. I think there is just like a movie ranch enough town to do this. Their sets are great. They're not detectable from reality. They look great. But Spencer is got to try to get back to the ranch. Winter probably will be in full swing. When we last left off, the confrontation, and I'm telling you, I don't know what the hell kind of spring they had, or what the hell kind of summer they had, or where we are in the year anywhere. Because Spencer's in Africa. Spencer's in Africa with Alexandra, and back home in Bozeman, or in the area of Bozeman, the Duttons and everyone else, including the new residents at the Stratford Ranch, which is Timothy Dalton's character, the very, very formidable and dangerous Donald Whitfield, they are just extremely good at not making you like overthink or come out of the story. It's entirely possible that Spencer and Alexander's story is going forward at a different pace than the story in Bozeman. In Bozeman and the area of the Yellowstone Ranch, what's going on is there is a locust plague. There are dust storms. There are problems. It is demonstrably bad out there. as they go forward, trying again and again to get ahead of this ecological problem that we know that they're not going to get ahead of because we are 21st century people with the knowledge of what happened to them, right? There is going to be a dust bowl. There is going to be a problem. Gavin Blackburn, David Lynch, no! No! Really? Really? Wow. Let me verify. That's terrible. He's one of the first people who, like, before I realized that before I stopped taking George Lucas for granted, the person who got me into, like, weird independent stuff and shaped a lot of my weird humor was David Lynch. And I've watched Blue Velvet maybe 600 times, if not more. It's a messed up movie. Twin Peaks remains the greatest TV show ever made. David Lynch made that great TV show because, well, and the weird thing is it wasn't his idea, right? He said his daughter wrote a short story and he started like working on it. His daughter was like 25 when she wrote it. She was, or in college or something like that. So she wrote like a college short story or something like that, and he just like got invested in it. And I think it was something that they did a little bit together, right? So let's see. I'm going to try to verify that and just to make sure. David Lynch. Yeah, director of Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet, dead at 78. Yeah, oh, it's true. I gotta make a banner. That's terrible. That's really sad. That's really sad. David Lynch was a great filmmaker because he did something first. We find out that there are people and movies that establish what your style is, right? David Lynch was supposed to direct Return of the Jedi and walked off the movie mutually agreeing, you know? They agreed mutually that it was time to walk off, and that he wasn't the Star Wars guy. And if only Rian Johnson would do that. And people will probably make comparisons, and it's unfair. You know, it's probably unfair to David Lynch, and I'll be the first one to concur, that David Lynch was far superior to Rian Johnson. But Rian Johnson has tried to get by on things associated with David Lynch. David Lynch, before anyone else, made movies that didn't totally make sense, okay? It's just the way it is. He made a lot of movies that did make sense. He established that he could tell a real story. But I think it was a lot like in music, we have cover bands, right? And what they do is to make your band stand out in that way. What you do is you do another band's song, right? Then you have original bands. An original band is harder to nail down because what's their style, right? It's out of context. They're an original band. So you've got that. David Lynch is like an original band. He's totally his own guy. He's playing a different beat. Like in music, he would be Rush. In music, he would be, you know, someone like Marillion or you know, well, narrow scope. Very narrow scope of focus, but like if you were to sit down and watch his movies, like you wouldn't necessarily look away from the parade of images going past the screen. And before anyone else did it, he established a bar of storytelling where I'm going to keep you interested. It's going to be interesting, but not profound. I'm going to wade around with the occult and dark forces. I'm going to show you beautiful images and gothic imagery. Everything from American Horror Story has a David Lynch to thank for existing at all. David Lynch, Blue Velvet, was one of the most instrumental movies in Hollywood. It was, that movie probably single-handedly necessitates the idea that we would have reality TV because it's such an insane movie. And the thing about the movie was it was a little bit of a slice of life. He also did a Dune movie that was absolutely fantastic with a daring collaboration with Toto, which sounds batshit crazy going in because I'm the same age as Nerdrotic, right? So I have a pretty good idea going in. Like what Toto's all about by the time that movie comes out. Like, I'm early in high school or whatever, maybe late in grammar school, when you really love and care about music more than anything else. So I'm just like, what the hell? When I saw that on the screen, I wasn't expecting something high quality, but they delivered a good soundtrack. Doesn't have any problem with like what's going through your mind is, why is Sting acting and why is Toto making the music when Sting is so much more notable? We find out that Sting needed those arguments with the police to be relevant, right? He needed those arguments with the other members of the police to bring him down to earth. They said, I think it was the drummer said, the American police officer from that equation, the American member of the police, said that like they would argue over like their passion, and like I think one of the things they were saying to him was like, faster and not as many times and more to the point. And like, if you ever analyze Sting's lyrics, like I love Sting, like, and I love the Police. I love the Police. I like Sting. I love the Police. If you analyze his lyrics, sometimes he sounds like a stalker. Well, maybe most of the times, but it's still good stuff. Fields of Gold might be his best Sting song, or Fortress of the Heart. I don't know, but David Lynch, I mean, just look at this discography. I'm going to jump onto the variety story now since it's breaking news. We'll jump back to the script later. Director David Lynch, who radicalized American film with dark, surrealistic, artistic vision films like Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive, and network television with Twin Peaks, has died. He was 78. Yeah, here's the thing. David Lynch was like Pink Floyd. He had like times when he could be Roger Waters' David Lynch, where he would have very, very, very profound themes and have a profound album, like Dark Side of the Moon, kind of profound. And then there were times where Roger Waters just didn't fit into the equation for what David Lynch was doing. And I don't mean Roger Waters collaborated. I mean, Pink Floyd had this whole phase where their music is still good, but they have Roger Waters sort of moved out of the band, and they get a session bass player, and they go on and they do their own thing, and it's still good and it's still serious, but it's not profound. But the creation time is cut down, so you get more Pink Floyd. It's still real good. It's not like they fell off the face of the earth with the later albums. In fact, some people think the Division Bell's the best. I've seen Division Bell tattoos, but it's just the way it is. And so David Lynch was able to be serious and narrative and emotional and direct and tell a story where you go from point A to point B to point C without saying this happened, then this happened, then this happened. David Lynch managed to give you cause and effect, and you could say about David Lynch movies, this happened, therefore this happened, causing this to happen. The unknown implication of which was this. So that causes this, which causes this to happen. And in reaction to that, they do this. Therefore, that's how storytelling is supposed to go, right? This happened, this happened, this happened. It's not supposed to be the way you get from point A to point B to point C. Things aren't supposed to happen magically, and you're not supposed to solve problems with magical thinking. David Lynch was able to weave a cohesive path from point A to point B to point C in a bunch of movies. Mulholland Drive being one of them. Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive being one of them. Blue Velvet being another one, but darker and grittier. And then in Twin Peaks, it's batshit, and it's not cohesive. And when he brings it home and explains it, and we're never getting another piece of the puzzle now, unfortunately. And I had been wondering how he could possibly plan to do another piece of the puzzle. We got a little bit, but like no real answers. But it's like David Lynch had established that when he does his more artistic work, it was only for the enjoyment of watching it, and that payoff and explanations were going to be beyond what you could do. This seems one franchise that is safe from being taken up. It wasn't episodic in the sense that it didn't have like clear starts and end. There was like a soap opera narrative flow that went through all episodes. And early on, he got in trouble because it was more like a streaming show, but at least it was like kind of good in the streaming sense. But it was network, and nothing could save this show. It was supposed to be a limited series, and that went over great. Then they turned around and they made it into a regular show, and you just can't do 22 episodes of Twin Peaks in a year. So that flamed like 16 episodes. They were just like, holy smoke. So they canceled it, and saying that it was canceled like gets it through the inertia of whatever's left of what they give it. And I think they end it with an event, and he sets up a movie, And I suppose the network may have had hopes that it would come back and make money for them, maybe as recurring events. And ultimately, that's kind of what happens. But so far and so many years between creation points on Twin Peaks, he does other stuff after that. But in Twin Peaks, he doesn't really feel the need to make sense. He's going to fascinate you. He's going to scare you. He's going to bring you in there, and he's going to do things that are just messed up. Early on in the age of cell phones, there was a movie called The Lost Highway. That one didn't make sense. Movies that they're not mentioning on here, like Wild at Heart, that movie didn't make sense, but it was a good movie. It was a really good movie. Did he get from point A to point B to point C clearly and cohesively with the movie staying together and a good storytelling thing? And he absolutely did. Who else is coming in? And hello to Gavin, Buddy Hepburn. It's good to see you. Momentary Lapse. You love that one? Let's see. The Elephant Man. Oh, and Dune. The Elephant Man is the one where I'd say he shows that, like, he is a really great independent and original artist, but what he does is he goes and he does a cover song. A historic story, right? He takes a historic story. So once the story is real and nailed into time, it comes down to what you can do with it and your take on it, and that's David Lynch with the Elephant Man. Here's a story that's not that far out of a lot of people's living memory. The 1980s, it's like, when did the Elephant Man exist? From like 1890 to like 1935 or something crazy like that. He's in like early movies that are decipherable to the eye. You know, it's a David Lynch stream, not an Elephant Man stream. I'm part of a freak show. I don't do freak show coverage, but I might. Yeah, but The Elephant Man, an amazing movie that probably makes Anthony Hopkins, right? It probably makes him. I don't know. That would be my estimation of it. But it's good to see people here hanging out, and we got people watching and sort of helping me fight back against the algorithm. And just sort of this tyranny that's going on here with just, like, people being down in general in views, and other people just going crazy with the injection of just pure politics and current events. I will talk about some of that, but it seems like they do not want me to do any sort of things of that nature here. And I haven't done an upload in a while, so I'll catch you up on what's going on with my upload, and we'll talk about what's going on with Paramount Plus too. But for those of you here, I am really grateful. And again, tweeting out that I'm live and liking the stream, very important, very helpful. No poll today. The poll is please like the stream. David Lynch got the randomness and craziness that's present in life. You know, when he had that person standing after the guy got like deleted by Frank Booth and his other compadres who made the movie Blue Velvet so frightening. At the crime scene, one person is standing up and they've got like a massive head wound. There's no way they're surviving. And they're just like flowing blood freely, but they're standing. And like after a while they twitch and like fire their weapon and like then they like stumble and fall over. And you're like, are they stunned and like not quite unalive yet? Or are they like out and gone and checked out and twitching? Like it's hard to tell what's going on at the end of Blue Velvet. But when we saw that unpleasantness on the New York City subway, and God, was that ever horrible, that thing that happened. You know what? To see the person standing up after they were no longer checked, when they not checked in anymore, so to speak. Twin Peaks season 2 really sagged in the middle. You knew it was padded to reach the network's demand. Beginning and end of the season were great. They were the Lynch bits, and the Lynch pins. The Twin Peaks problem was this. And guys, if you're with me, I need all the help I can get building back from this shadow ban. And they will probably snap out of it a little while down the line. But I know there's a lot to watch. Browsers open and stuff like that. It really helps. The Watch Party, my biggest show, and the only one I super promote. That one, we don't run any AdSense on that. And we run it minimal on this one. The Star Trek stuff we give away for free. Anyway, the thing with David Lynch is, in his movies that are out there in Twin Peaks, he was allowed to be out there. The public had no expectation of real payoff. It was just to be fascinated by the insanity of it. And it might be because he did it first. David Lynch was out there being a crazy creator before a lot of these other guys were. And that's what made him so special and made him able to do the kind of things he did so very well. David Lynch could hold you spellbound, and after it was all said and done, it wasn't laughable nonsense. It was deeply strange, compelling, and thoughtful stuff. You were better off writing off the idea that there was any reason why it happened. I think, at least in Twin Peaks, I don't know if you agree with me, but was the idea that aliens and the supernatural, the occult, were one and the same? Do you think that aliens and the supernatural were one and the same in Twin Peaks? And the occult of the Guardians, are they supposed to explain each other, right? Like, are flying saucers actually ghosts? That's what I'm saying. Are UFOs and, the spirits that we see supposed to explain each other in Twin Peaks? Is that the idea? I think that that's as much as you're gonna get. I'm going to it would seem that there's only 3 options. Yes, no, and please like the stream. But I see some people coming in, and hello to all of you. Welcome. We're just getting the news now. I'm going off script from Yellowstone. Breaking news. We found out that David Lynch passed away. David Lynch, the major filmmaker and Academy Award winner, a man whose work presaged the reality TV that so dominates everyday life now. It's amazing. He did it better, but you know what? He was not held to the same rules as regular filmmakers. There was no expectation of payoff. So let's see. Admiral Teag asks, and please give me your feedback on this one. Do you think aliens and the occult are supposed to explain each other in Twin Peaks? So the answer is yes, right? Obviously, no, and if not, like the stream and see the results. I think that the idea is that we had this experience with the occult, and that the aliens and the way that we saw things in the world of Twin Peaks was that our occult experiences of the Guardians, which is the term that I like to use when we talk about the people who were in America before the Mayflower got here, and we'll put it like that. And some of us have some of their DNA, and I'm one of them. I'm Elizabeth Warren level, maybe a little more, significantly more, but I mean, still not enough to say that I'm of that lineage. But you know what? When we have this laid out in front of us with Twin Peaks, we've got these unclean spirits, which are almost another sci-fi trope, right? Like the Cenobites, who are sort of horror sci-fi. And Twin Peaks is horror sci-fi, right? And we've got this horror sci-fi tale that spans 34 years, right? It's over now. It's over now. Maybe does it go on in lore? His daughter, if the story is the Laura Palmer Diaries are the first piece of Twin Peaks. I think his daughter has writing on that. He may have altered stuff from it, but I think that's the first thing we get. That is the beginning of Twin Peaks. Then this whole Red Room starts to be more and more heavily implied that it's aliens, and then it gets implied that the aliens that were seen by the American Guardians, as I like to call them, they're like the Cleveland Guardians. You see where I'm going with this? That the people that the Guardians saw, who they thought were like great spirits or whatever, that they might have also been some of these Wendigos that were seen by the ancient, Guardians might have actually been ancient astronauts, of malicious intent, and maybe they weren't too cool. But listen, that's David Lynch. He had a reduced level of expectation from people. 5 votes already. Most people liking the stream. Yes is overwhelming. No, everyone seems to feel yeah. It feeds back in. I guess the other question would be a more appropriate question would be, and Resolute Germ, hello. Couldn't get through an episode of Twin Peaks. Are you talking about the new one where they relaunched it? The first one, it was deliberately weird David Lynch, an acquired taste, very, very different from the other things you might expect. David Lynch was like there was a reduced expectation of reality from David Lynch, a reduced expectation of narrative flow and accuracy. David Lynch wasn't supposed to make sense, and apparently, what happened was a lot of people who took notice of this sort of did it in the wrong way. I would say David Lynch's memory was never, or David Lynch's legacy while he was still alive, was never so abused as by Ryan, what's his face, from Last Jedi, Ruin Johnson. Ruin Johnson sort of abused David Lynch's legacy here, where by bringing on his Wild at Heart star, what's her name? Laura Dern. He tries to invoke Twin Peaks rules. This is what I mean. Ryan Johnson dazzles us for a couple of minutes with a mind-bendingly, weirdly different Star Wars battle, right? That starts with the "your mother" joke, is strangely, weirdly too worldly and grounded, strangely on Star Wars alike, and strangely unenjoyable, right? So he brings us to this weird place where Leia's slapping Poe and everything is just unreal, and like Luke is throwing away his lightsaber, and you're like, you know, what in the world is going on in this crazy show, in this crazy movie that I'm watching? And while like your head is spinning, all of a sudden, this is how it felt for me. Little did I know, right? When Laura Dern shows up, Holdo shows up, I was like, I like Laura Dern. I trust Laura Dern. Laura Dern's in good movies. Laura Dern explained things in Jurassic Park. Laura Dern explained things in other movies. Laura Dern got a whiff of what was going on in the world that she was ensconced in Wild at Heart. Laura Dern like brings with her like the feel of a David Lynch movie. And so what happened was I felt that it would be a more typical Laura Dern performance. I didn't think it would be her much more limited David Lynch work. Because remember, she's only in Blue Velvet, right? Then there's all this David Lynch stuff without her, and she's reintegrated into Series 2 of Twin Peaks. So she's only in Blue Velvet and Wild at Heart, which are isolated from each other. She's great, and I thought that like she would probably bring some sanity and explain some stuff, but it was not clear and did not make sense when she showed up. And that's when I realized, not very quickly, but after a few minutes, that Laura Dern was going to be used to invoke Twin Peaks-like rules and to invoke the feeling of David Lynch so that the writer could get out of having to deliver on a story that really necessarily made sense. That was the problem I had. And hello, X. We have a lot of people on X. We got a decent amount of people on the YouTubes. Again, if you could share and like this stream, it would help me. But again, a little bit of suppression, and we see why we got to keep it timely on the Admiral Teag show. So David Lynch, 75 years old, I believe. Let's look at the article again, verification on that one. We know that I'm dyslexic and I suck at math. But yeah, David Lynch, 1946 to 2025. So R.I.P. He's at 79 years old. R.I.P. David Lynch. The Black Lodge was never truly explained, nor should it be. When we do talk about it, it's illustrated in early 20th century cinematic formula, right? When we see people moving at weird frame rate while he tells the story, and while we hear about the aliens, and the music, the weird ethereal music that David Lynch composed. David Lynch was in on the ground floor of most music for almost all of his stuff. He was very, very interested in music, and he was more of an art guy than a movie guy. Like how he got into directing when he wasn't that narrative all the time. He had to go narrative and serious a lot of the time to justify the times that he was merely artful, to show that he wasn't Ridley Scott, to show that he had some kind of cachet of his own. I like that Lynch always left wiggle room for you to make your own conclusions. He didn't dictate the story to you. That is true. He didn't use it as a crutch either. They were like decent, debatable conversations. The end of Lost is supposed to be like David Lynch. Those people were smelling their own farts thinking that they were David Lynch. David Lynch's like legacy has been abused by people who make nonsensical stuff that just doesn't add up. The people who made Lost sort of abused the legacy of someone like David Lynch. I think all this bad robot stuff abuses the legacy of David Lynch in a way that's boring and bad. And you know what? Like, David Lynch wasn't bound to normal rules, but David Lynch delivered a spectacle that made it enjoyable to, be not bound by such rules and to be so affected and to see things in a different way. You know what? A movie by David Lynch was artful enough, and you walked in there, knowing that it would at least be grounded enough and cohesive enough for you to enjoy. And I mean, even Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is crazy, but they contextualize it with a show that's telling you that they're going to go increasingly crazier and don't expect it to make sense. I mean, people chewing on glasses, people like speaking in tongues, all sorts of crazy stuff. A woman walking around with a log. It was about spectacle on Twin Peaks, and he delivered it. So if you wanted a story, it wasn't there. Yeah, either one of them, I agree. I can see why. Here's the thing he relied on that was cool. Hot women. I loved the hot women. Also, the artisticness with which it was filmed. We're talking like you don't have to have as good of a story as long as it's not a horrific story, which is what you get with Rian Johnson. If you're filming things that beautifully. And David Lynch I keep calling him David Lee, almost calling him David Lee Roth. David Lynch invites you into this cinematic world that's a little closer to a Twilight Zone story. Every David Lynch movie could basically be viewed as a one-off Twilight Zone, some of which are historically precedented, not to say accurate. I would say David Lynch and everyone else benefited from knowing their depth and having him not be a Star Wars movie maker. That would have been a horrible disaster. Could you imagine David Lynch's Return of the Jedi? And I agree with this. I'd say, yeah, the wiggle room he left us was at least like debatable stuff, and not the end of Lost, where it's an angel's dream and they use the internet to float theories and backfill why it happened rather than letting you organically come up with this stuff. I mean, that was ridiculous. Like, they just came up and like started like playing whack-a-mole with why you weren't right about why it was terrible, and then they used the fan theories on their own rather than like good faith. So they're kind of defrauding the fans of their agency, right? By the people who make like public hangout and bad reboot stuff now, they really spite the fans, like their intelligence and their ability to follow a narrative. And it's a little bit mean and it's a little ridiculous, isn't it? But yeah, we mentioned Euchre. When we talked about how he found fame and managed to stay relevant without really... Who got hurt in Bob Uecker's attempt to stay relevant? He, on his merit, became a Major League Baseball player. On his merit was like a backup catcher, which is like kind of like a little bit like, scornful in baseball. You get like mocked lightheartedly by the other players, right? Then he makes a mint off of that by being like only quite barely good enough to be a major leaguer and sort of like a laughable, like Bad News Bears Buttermaker kind of character, 70s Buttermaker kind of character, endorsing beer, ends up on TV in a sitcom, finds fame that way, in an unlikely way. Like, how the hell does he end up on that sitcom? Then, like, fame as, like, a D-list celebrity, something that the world was only starting to admit as entertainment proliferates. You have to have a bunch of cable. You have to have a bunch of TV networks before you can have someone like a Bob Uecker, where he's existed, where he's found fame, like, several different times in several different ways, independent of each other, or only slightly reliant on each other. Not to mention a legitimate career in movies as a baseball analyst and as a baseball analyst. It was crazy that the Uecker... He had the skills. He was the Milwaukee Brewers guy a lot of the year, but I think they understood it benefited them to work with him to work on his Hollywood career too, right? I think I'm right about the Uke. I'm not totally positive, but yeah, R.I.P. to the Uke. Bad robot have no media literacy. They always draw the wrong conclusion. To see their Star Trek, the way they watched Trek concluded it was an action show. There were action episodes of Star Trek, but Star Trek's not an action show. And also, they concluded it was a spy show. They seemed to, like, if they had bought Mission Impossible, which Tom Cruise bought and did the right way, which and proved it could work by keeping it mostly the same, they would be somewhere. But no! Sorry, guys. I had to step away for a second to grab some Coca-Cola. This is thirsty work. But no. All right. So David Lynch, 1946 to 2025. His legacy sorely abused by modern filmmakers who use David Lynch's legacy and David Lynch's cast to sort of put on movies that don't make sense and justify it as art. The Last Jedi didn't make any sense. It was just bad. It wasn't art. It was a terrible freaking movie, all right? It was a terrible freaking movie. And again, welcome to everybody. If there's anyone out there I haven't seen, welcome. 7 votes in our poll. I think maybe this one I'm going to end, right? But it looks like it got 8 votes before it ended. Did someone else jump in there? It looks like 50% of everybody felt that that aliens and the occult were linked in Twin Peaks. That's kind of a narrow one. I have another one that's like, did David Lynch's movies justify the reduced level of reality? Did David Lynch's movies earn Did David Lynch earn the right not to pay off stories? Now, he paid it off enough of the time. Remember, some is very important in this. He paid off a lot of the time. The Elephant Man, it was a real story. He told us how it really ended, right? Like the payoff is built into the fact that in the real world there are people alive that remember that 40, 50 years before there was this Elephant Man around, right? People may even have seen him who are still alive. People who seen him may have, even been able to see the movie. It's sort of amazing that way. When you do a historical movie, if you are really good with the history, you can bail yourself out. The rule and the exception proved by the same guy. If you look at Oliver Stone, right? When he goes back really far in time and his history and is fairly accepted, in Alexander, the director's cut, which is more faithful to history and makes more sense, and I studied under the professor who was the consultant for part of that. He didn't get his name into the movie, but Professor John Maxwell O'Brien, good historian, New York City guy. He wrote a book called Alexander and the Unseen Enemy about Alexander's alcoholism, right? And this is a book that Stone loved. And if you read the book, you can see that it's his director's cut more than the movie he ended up making. He couldn't get American financing for that, and he had to switch to some European filmmakers, and they switched from his preferred filmmaker, from his preferred historian to theirs. But if you read The Unseen Enemy or The Invisible Enemy about Alexander, you'll see that it talks about his problem with alcoholism. And the thing is, he doesn't so much say, like, look, this guy was definitely an alcoholic. What he said was he came contextually from a culture where they were more likely to drink alcohol. You hear the opening up the mini sodas. I have these like mini Cokes and mini Dr. Peppers, and I mix them together because that's my favorite thing. I'm kind of like hooked on that. But like he basically used the analogy that my professor had in his book before, and he was telling us, I studied under this guy before the movie came out. I'm a little like, it was grad school stuff for history. So this guy was like, and I took that because I just like history, right? Okay. That was something I could, you used to be able to afford education. It was like in Queens College where I went, it was affordable. Other famous alumni, Judge Judy and Ray Romano. Queens College, ladies and gentlemen. I also went to Stony Brook, but here we go. Did David Lynch earn the right to like the street, to not pay off some stuff? And you can see results or like the stream too. I appreciate everyone being here and supporting me. Getting back on our feet from what's been going on. Weird couple of weeks. And mixed in with all the other weird stuff has been just the usual YouTube weird stuff, which we'll get to later about people messing with other people's channels and crazy shit like that. But right now we've got another poll for you. That here, did David Lynch earn the right to not pay off some stories? Some stories. Okay, so the assumption here is that you got a shot of finding out what's going on. You just, hey, RRTNZ, hail. David Lynch, the legendary filmmaker, has passed away. Hail, team. Fine, unfortunate coincidence. I can't stay long. I know. I was very sorry. We talked about this one just a little. May that person's memory eventually be a blessing to you, my friend. Off to a funeral. R.I.P. Bob Uecker and David Lynch. You enjoyed Alf and Lynch's films. Well, except Eraserhead, but no one does. Right, but you sort of couldn't turn it off because it's so weird. And that guy was in all the David Lynch movies up until he passes away. And when he passed away, he's Paul in Blue Velvet. Eraserhead goes on to be in all the David Lynch movies, and he's really only in David Lynch movies. And when he passed away, when asked for comment, if I remember correctly, David Lynch was like, he was kind of a really mean guy who was hard to take. He drank a lot and would have angry fits, but man, could he act. I loved having him in my movies. It was just like David Lynch was so weird and honest. Like he would just tell you these things. And he had that strange delivery. Oh, wow, RRTNZ, thank you, my friend, as I put a heart on this. Here we go, still with the humor. Ready? If the Cylons took over Voyager, Harry would get promoted. Tuvix would be alive, and they'd be home instead of wasting time in holographic Irish pubs. Although the pub would serve real alcohol, live long and prosper. You could turn the replicators to real alcohol on the Enterprise D, but maybe not in the Voyager, right? But Tuvix is here to thank you.
Doesn't anyone see that this is wrong?
And I can see that my headphones are being all weird today, and I can't hear the feed from some stuff, but others. I wonder if I can hear people talking. Let's see if I can hear Pat.
The Carthaginians defending the city.
Ooh, I can't hear Pat either, but I know that you guys can. All right, it's another weird day on StreamYards. It's always a new adventure. What can I tell you? Maybe if I turn my headphones off and on again, I'll find out. Who knows? But if the Cylons took over Voyager, Harry would get promoted. Tuvix would be alive, and they'd be at home instead of wasting time in the holographic Irish pub. And of course, the pub would serve real alcohol. You know what? I never got why you would drink the synthahol in the first place, but I suppose that the reason why you were able to, or you prefer the synthahol, is that it's a little safer and a little more secure. And I can see now that I'm going to have to go with my headphones. That's the only way to solve. It's the only way to solve certain problems. It's unfortunate, but what are you going to do? It's weird. I don't need to hear me to continue going, but certainly I need to get this problem squared away because I know my microphone is not, in fact, the speaker. So I see my circle still popping. I know I'm good. I can't hear myself, but you can hear me, so maybe I can look into it. Harrison, help me.
Enhance 15 to 23.
Thank you, Harrison. I think everyone heard Harrison but me, right? Did you guys hear Harrison? Let me know. I'm working on it, by the way. It's a fun little experience when we change from one type of the headphone to the other. I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for sticking with me through this weird experiment. I just got rid of bad audio, so bad video. So of course now bad audio will be my next problem. But I'm sorry, I got rid of the bad audio, so of course now bad problems with the headphones will be my next problem. Let's try Bluetooth headphones number 2. And like I said, I don't need to hear this. I can hear myself. If you're just getting here, David Lynch passed away today. We remember him, and thank you, RRTNZ. I'm sorry about your loss. I hope that we can provide some entertainment and some enjoyment for those of you who are going through a loss or having a difficult time. Certainly the situation in Los Angeles being talked about by everyone, everywhere. It's a big deal. a lot of people getting into the whole issue quite deeply, and it's an interesting thing to see ongoing in our society as we look to try to get this squared away. And I think maybe I might have my headphone thing taken care of. Let's see. Do I hear Patton?
Carthaginians.
Yes. All right. I hear Patton now. Okay. So what can I tell you? I can say this. I'm not crazy. Sometimes one set of headphones works. Sometimes the other sets of headphones work. It's crazy. You got to keep 2 Bluetooth headphones on hand. People who want to stream, you need double the equipment. You need a backup microphone at all times. I am not insane about when it comes to this one. This is good advice. You'll save money. Let's quickly look at our poll. And by the way, guys, I never set a goal. I'm not saying I never will, but so far, goals, like it's not me. If you want to join my community and help me create, there's a 1933 and hello, try, how would I say it? Try 3IRT. It's good to see you. Try 3IRT says Lynch did like to play with the surreal and bizarre, so perhaps he was implying manifestations from the collective unconscious. I think that there's something to be said for that, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for that for joining in the conversation, and I'd love to know what if you voted, thank you for enjoying my legally distinctive insanity music written just for you guys to enjoy. What can I tell you? You need a little bit of crazy person music too if you want to do YouTube and live streaming. And I welcome everyone on X, where we have a good representation. And let's see, RTNZ. Nearly walked out of Doom when I saw it in 1984. But now I think it captured the perversion and cruelty of Herbert's universe. Although Villeneuve showed us that Jessica was one of the worst villains. See, like, Villeneuve's like weird, and I have weird feelings about him because of his Blade Runner movie. 43% don't know out of our 7 votes. And please, take the poll. Of our 7 votes, and a couple of people have gone with liking the results, and thank you for that. Just, interacting and liking. I need all the help I can get right now. We're building towards something. We're building up. It's been weird. We're coming out of a weird time. Advertising rates down, so maybe Admiral Teag's value goes up. And I don't mean for me. I mean all across YouTube. But when I saw Dune in 1985, I was pretty little, right? Pretty young. I old enough to go out on my own, but not an adult, right? So I remember seeing this, and I'm like, it's not Star Wars. And it took me a while to process that it was okay for it not to be Star Wars, because this didn't compute, you know what I mean? It's not Star Trek, it's not Star Wars, where's this guy going with this? So after it finally started computing in my mind, I started to enjoy Dune around the time Dr. Huey blows the poison in the guy's face and Paul sticks his hand into like the pain box and all that other weird stuff. So once Dr. Huey gets taken out, at least you've captured my attention. And there's Dean Stockwell, who we see in Quantum Leap and again in Star Trek Discovery and, Star Trek Enterprise. And a lot of good sci-fi work in Battlestar Galactica, another show that I love, both iterations of. And I had a great time last night with my pal Dave C. and my pal JT Kirk. We talked the Galactica 1980 comics, and man, talk about a storytelling meltdown. I think they had only artists and no storytellers in that one. In a comic book called Battlestar Galactica, you're going to be in trouble if you destroy the Battlestar Galactica in the very first, or it was the second issue. So in issue 1, you reestablish who everyone is and why they're out there, who's still around and who isn't. Then in issue 2, the Galactica appears over the White House and gets nuked. That's what they were doing. It was like they spent all the, and by the way, these were like Transformers artists. They couldn't draw like people all that well. So many of their choices were to draw people walking away. So many characters had beards because they didn't want to like draw their facial features. Beard guy, he looked like Bob Ross. The story couldn't make it. It wasn't a cool like Battlestar Galactica is cool, and chronicling the efforts to keep Galactica out there and going as a story, that's cool. But it was cognizant of the new Galactica. It used little bits and pieces of it, but it didn't delve that deeply into it. And right now, we're deadlocked at whether or not David Lynch earned the right to not pay off some stories, because he didn't sometimes. Dune, about the middle of the movie, when I got it, and thank you RRTNZ for the chat. By the time I got it with Dune, I got it. I was like, okay, this is gonna be weird. Now, I didn't read the books, so I had no expectation. I knew the books existed, and I heard they were as well regarded as Tolkien. Because remember, Tolkien only has that animated movie at this point. So I'm like kind of alone as a Tolkien person in my life. Like, not that there weren't a lot of Tolkien people out there, but like not a lot of children read these children's stories. Only my sort of old-fashioned parents thought a 1930s children's story was still suitable in 1970s for a child. And I had to have a lot of help understanding The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I got through it by like fourth grade, but I only read it. I had to go back and reread it to understand it again in like middle school and again in high school, and you get a little bit different experience out of that every time you read it. Worth a reread every 15 years or so maybe in life. Might be getting close to time to read it again, but people sort of split on David Lynch's right not to pay things off. Gosh knows he didn't. So with due consideration having been paid to David Lynch, we'll leave up the banner. We'll go back to the script and say that we were talking about 1923 in Yellowstone, and it is a weird way what Yellowstone world fits together. I'll explain it to you now. Season 3 Captain Archer is BSG's Adama with more drop kicks and less alcoholism. Edward James Olmos really just kicked that up to a whole new level and gave us acting that I don't know that we expected. I had seen, there was a serious movie about being like an inner city school teacher and making a difference with Edward James Olmos called Stand and Deliver that gave us Lou Diamond Phillips' beginning of his career, right? A lot of good performances in that about like a bad school. Was it in Newark? Was it in LA? It was in LA. And he had like bad gang problems and all this other stuff. And he gives us this great story. Maybe it's true. And I am just drinking my Dr. Cola, whatever you want to call my strange hybrid drink made from both. I like it. I recommend it. At any rate, David Lynch, a major filmmaker, leaves us, I guess, at the Academy Awards. We'll see. They'll include him in the in memoriam, I'm sure. But, you know, there have been controversial omissions before, but he's a former winner. I believe he wins for The Elephant Man, and there's a lot of other hardware that David Lynch accumulates, because his films, when they were weird, they're still well made. That's not the case in like a movie like The Last Jedi. And what David Lynch had going for him, I think, is it was his freaking franchise. It was his freaking idea. He started it just to be weird. The point was to be weird. He was overtly weird. He was telling you it was about being weird. He was telling you not to expect it to make sense. He was just going to keep you fascinated with crazy stuff. And it was an open honesty. It was never like this J.J. Abrams, like the mystery box will be open. He's like, I'll layer on a little more mystery and I'll keep you interested in how strange it is. The Substitute. I remember that. That was Edward James Olmos The Substitute. I thought The Substitute was that wasn't Treat Williams or Tom Berenger. Was it? There's a couple of Edward James Olmos movies where let's look at his IMDb. But his performance in BSG 2, where he's Adama, he takes that closing speech and takes that whole thing. Yes, you've seen that one. Yeah, all right. He takes that whole thing. And he there's several like challenge school stories, and they do it again with Michelle Pfeiffer, and like obviously she's the hottest person to deal with it. But because the movie's from like 1994 or something, right? Coolio's career is sort of that whole song, "Gangster's Paradise," I think was the theme song for the movie. But you know that's where you get with that one. Like there's a whole bunch of like, you know, teachers in a tough spot movies. His is one of the best ones, right? So he does the concrete jungle thing better than most everyone else, and he does it from the Latino perspective. In BSG, he's just a regular character actor. He doesn't bring anything else with him except his gravitas and his ability. And he's not your most striking and compelling leading man. He does it with charisma. He does it with a look. He does it with a gesture. He does it with body language. He does it with that pause before the grunt, and the grunt itself before the answer. You know, it's like most characters would be like, you know, like someone's asking him, like, you know, Kurt, or like you know, Admiral, what do we do? And like, the thought would be like, if you're delivering, we should attack. It'd be like, or we need resources, whatever the response might be. It'd be like, Admiral, what do we do? And the response would come back from like a regular actor, be like, we need resources. Like, we're going to attack. Like Adama, Edward James almost be like, Admiral, what do we do? It's like, he would like look for a minute and be purposeful, and then kind of look down, and then be like, we're going to attack. With kind of an unexpected but equally compelling delivery. He had a quiet, smoldering intensity in that role. He raised that whole show. My favorite Lynch film is also a Nicolas Cage film, Wild at Heart. That is weird, wacky, and fun film. I love Wild at Heart. It's a fun movie. It's a good movie. It's Nicolas Cage used the right way as Nicolas Cage. It is Laura Dern at her finest, being used in a movie where she's really in more of the element that was associated with her early on. Laura Dern's first movie is like Gator. I think it's Gator, or the Gator sequel with Burt Reynolds. She plays like the daughter of her mother who's cast in the movie. Who the fuck is her mother? Bruce Dern's ex-wife. She's in Wild at Heart as well. Diane Ladd. Diane Ladd. Not the older one. Not the one who's in Judge Dredd. You know who I'm talking about. They're both older now, but one's much older. Is it Diane Ladd, the older one? Bruce Dern's ex-wife. Laura Dern's mother. Laura Dern's Hollywood royalty on both sides. But she can act. She's not the most beautiful to die for. Yes, Diane Ladd. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, she's a lad by birth, and then Cheryl Ladd is a lad by marriage. Now, Laura Dern is both a Dern and a Ladd. She's got two forms of Hollywood pedigree wrapped together. I'll say it again. From my experience, because of my high regard for her when she walked on as Holdo, I'm like, it's Laura Dern. This movie is going to come together now. I'm sure that she'll solve these problems. And boy, was I ever wrong, man. That's just absolutely surprised. Holy shit, was I ever wrong about that. She was just completely nuts as that character. And she gave them what they wanted in the performance. I don't think it lines up with her personal preference or how she looks at life. They got what they wanted from her in that performance. That was what they wanted. She delivered the weird edginess. And I think what happened was this guy counted on Laura Dern to dispel the rules of payoff and to make it into a different kind of movie than it was. When you're dispelling payoff, like Rian Johnson dispelled payoff, you have to have certain consciousness. Rian Johnson had great music from John Williams, right? Powering him through this subversive, crazy thing. He also had everyone but the Star Trek fans complete surprise in The Last Jedi because no one expected this level of bad faith. And you think that he invented it, but JJ did it a couple of times first. It's just that Rian Johnson just did it out of nowhere, and the worst. Star Trek had not been a successful movie a couple of times before the J.J. Abrams, and I always call it the sugar high, cannibalizing from the end and middle of your story to make the beginning pop method. They say J.J. Abrams can only write beginnings. It's true. That stupid island from Lost, that stupid island in Lost, there's no reason why you couldn't have had a reason for the island to have supernatural properties. I wrote a reason for the island to have it, and I'll give it to you right now. How about this? 300 years ago, a Dutch ship crashed on the island, washed ashore in a storm. There's some people on the island already who are already there, right? They always were there. And then the people from Europe and the people who were always there, they clash. And both sides use violence, and both sides use some kind of black magic, like Euro black magic on one side, and some sort of weird occultism on the other side, right? Like, make something up. Put a curse from both sides on the island. And then, like, that would make everyone on the island have, like, some sort of, like, supernatural, you're not a Force ghost, but maybe you're a Sith ghost. And you still could have had your kooky ending where no one survived, but at least you'd have justified the journey of these ghosts. The journey of these ghosts and these spirits. And hey, what's going on, Jacob Ironside? It's good to see you. Jacob Ironside is a good friend of mine. He's doing great streams that involve the X-Files. He's a great YouTuber, and he is a great pal. Good to see you, Jacob Ironside. Please put your channel in the chat so that we can highlight that and get people who are interested to check out a great X-Files stream as well as other great stuff from my pal, Jacob Ironside. Anyway, David Lynch, it looks like a lot of people in our poll are going for like the stream, but a slight advantage for David Lynch having earned the right not to pay things off. Listen, bad things came out of it. We like Deep Space Nine, but they gave us Section 31, and that's a terrible thing. And in Star Trek news, don't use hashtag Star Trek for a while. And commit to it. Don't use it when Section 31 comes out. Don't use hashtag Section 31. Stick with hashtag Infection 31. Don't use it. It's a bad idea. It's bad stuff. Let's see. J.J. Abrams spent years carefully honing his ability to set up a mystery and then let down audience. On Lost, after that, he was a master of the art of disappointment. Yeah, one of the earliest things I did was transform JJ's TED Talk, where he basically says nothing for like 45 minutes, and he says, oh, it's easy, just be profound. And that doesn't really work out a lot of the time. So anyway, the David Lynch's legacy was that he himself could make a cohesive film that made sense and was narratively fine. And he had female characters that were likable and powerful and made sense, but not ridiculous and preposterous. Like the powerful female characters, if they were getting the advantage on people, like they had black magic sometimes, right? Or bad things were fated to happen by supernatural forces. That crazy Wizard of Oz stuff in Wild at Heart. And populating his movies with beautiful women. The career of Sherilyn Fenn wasn't very long, but she was gorgeous. Oh, you're welcome. Guys, check this guy out. He's totally the best. You're going to love his X-Files stuff, and it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. So back on script. Listen, the 1923 stuff, we had to stop and talk about, this. It was a major development. Sorry, guys. I'm just grabbing my memo pad, which I forgot to grab before the show. I got to write down this time code for chaptering purposes because that was a major deviation from the script. Wow. So anyway, welcome everybody, and let's get back to the things we came here to talk about. We'll leave David Lynch's banner up there. Certainly a Hollywood legend like him deserves it. And I'm sorry that I drifted off moorings so far there. Sometimes it happens. I get distracted and I start to ramble, and it's a mistake that I make sometimes. And it's like maybe someone can help me. Shut up! All right, fine. I'll get back on point. Here we go. Look, as far as 1923, the characters and stuff like that, think Hemingway. Think Hemingway with me, okay? Hemingway in the sense that Taylor Sheridan writes like fairly stoic men, but they're not stoic to a fault. Like, they will speak of what is bothering them. They will speak of what is motivating them, and you'll get that from them. So they're not so stoic that you can't enjoy yourself. There's enough going on with their sense of expression that they're not just unreadable. Harrison Ford is like perfect for the world in 1923, and especially his acting. His character in 1923 is perfect. He is perfectly cast. And it's weird that Harrison Ford is dangerous in that role and that he's doing his best acting in the 21st century in that role. But that is my personal feeling when I see it. It's his best acting since maybe Air Force One or some of those Tom Clancy movies. It's not dumb. He's not being an idiot. He's not apologizing for his past character. He's not undermining anything. He's a powerful new character that I can enjoy, who has a reasonable amount of skill, and that I believe in it. Like, this is what he did to his other character. I mean, it took another actor in there too, but I mean, in 40 seconds, look at the horror story that they did to Hans.
One question! You want to live, Spike?
Yeah, but this time I've got the money. Tell Java.
I know that laugh. Yes, anything.
There you have it. Han Solo, a life, right? It saved you so much money. I mean, that's, how the hell is that a character arc? Just gets dumber and dumber. But in 1923, of all things, Harrison Ford is dangerous. He is powerful. He's just whipping out his gat and slapping it to people's heads. You love Deep Space Nine, but you do not care for Section 31. Me either. They're enjoyable episodes. I feel like Starfleet would have a secret agency under their nose. You know what? I gotta be honest. I felt like their name sucked. I felt like they should have been called like Provision 31 and treated more like an afterthought. The idea that there are only 30 things more important than having a scumbag backstabbing spy agency that like mostly spies on its own citizens, especially in the newer era. That's a little offensive. That's like our Constitution only has 22 amendments, so maybe we're a bad example, but this is like a spacefaring society and all this other stuff. Like there were only 30 like the right to food is one, the right to like shelter is another, the right to like not be beat up on by like Klingons is like another, like the right of the Klingons to be part of the like Union later on is like yet another. Like they got to 29 and they're like, oh, we need a scumbag spy agency. It's crazy. And I hope the sound through my Blue Yeti's coming out great. Yeah, Amendment, like Provision 31, Section 31, it wasn't a cool, like it was underthought. And I think the deal is this. Now, Bird of Prey 5, God rest his soul, my pal, he loved Deep Space Nine the most too. And I did the most Star Trek talks I think I've had with any one individual person with him at LDG's place, where we just talk Star Trek endlessly. And, he preferred Deep Space Nine, and he started getting a little bit angry when I talked about Section 31 and blamed Deep Space Nine for it. And he said, like, it's only in 3 stories. And we checked it, and it was verified that it was only in 3 stories. But this is my proviso on that. I think that it was only the plot and part of 3 stories. But there was a lot of other times when they would talk to Garrick or talk in ops or talk about a situation. They'd be like, it could be the Cardassians, the Jem'Hadar, or a Section 31 false flag. Like there were other men. They were not only in. Their presence was not confined to only 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine. I think that they were mentioned like 60 times, but they're in it like 3 times. There's 3 Deep Space Nine stories about Section 31. And in Enterprise, they get into it deeply, and it's weird to see it happen that way. And welcome everybody; it's good to see you. At any rate, Taylor Sheridan and the 1923, 1883, and Yellowstone configurations. This is how it snaps together. Taylor Sheridan is some kind of co-creator now on Yellowstone. Asterisk is showing up next to his name. TV deals are getting crossed and mixed. Yellowstone proper, which I guess they consider me an influencer. It looks legitimate, their outreach to me to talk to some of their stars. And if it's real, I'll get some video. If it's not, you know what? I already cleaned off my phone. It's a total burner. I'm going to find out whether this is for real or not. And I didn't know that Rip Wheeler, who's Cole Hauser, I didn't know Cole Hauser was Wings Hauser's son. That's interesting stuff. But we'll see if that one's real. If it's true, though, and Yellowstone does want to talk to me about showing me stuff from 1923 before it happens to get the hype going, that would mean I might have more friends at Paramount than Kurtzman. Who knows, right? Who knows? I can forgive DS9. They were only in for a short time. Discovery having Section 31, having badges and uniforms. It's just plain stupid. Like turning the Gorn into Xenomorphs level stupid. Yeah. Oh yeah. And why the hell did like Admiral O from Picard season 1 wear plastic sunglasses? Why? I wear contact lenses sometimes, and when I wear them, the contact lenses have Blu-ray protection built right in, right? Most of the time I have glasses, but like my contact lenses have Blu-ray protection built right in. This is like 300 years in the future. Why wouldn't they have contact lenses that like, does anyone think that like tinted contact lenses, or honestly contact lenses that are, what do they call them, like transition lenses, that can change and dark, does anyone think that's more than 10 years away if they want it, and a way to make it work is more than 10 years away? I don't think it's more than 10 years away. I predict that we have it sooner rather than later. And it's good to see people hanging with me and hanging in there. Yellowstone proper seems to be like Taylor Sheridan backing away from being the only guy on that. The Taylor Sheridan element of Yellowstone, and Yellowstone's not over, but that's character stories over. The Yellowstone town, the Yellowstone people, and the Yellowstone characters are going to be transplanted into a new show called The Madison. So Beth Dutton's story is going to go on. And man, do I hate that my neighbor has a small freaking dog. Ugh. You know, I love dogs, but my neighbor's not a good pet owner. So it would be better if they were just like walking this dog rather than letting it freak out in the house. But you know what? If you're going to live in the city, like, this is not the greatest place for dogs. What can I tell you? Call me crazy. You know, like, we have trains with an audible sound that's, like, loud to humans. What's it like to be a dog? Jeez, some people. Anyway, here we go. So Yellowstone, Taylor Sheridan is taking his part of Yellowstone, and that's going to become the Madison. That's the name. The original name was 2024. We could see why that wasn't going to work out. The Madison starts in a few more months. I think this fall. Tentatively. It's going to have Michelle Pfeiffer, and the new people are going to take up residence in the area of Bozeman. They're from New York. Their story starts in New York. Most of it's done. I don't know when it starts. There's a lot of stuff about the Madison out there, but nothing very new. So the Madison is a successor to Yellowstone. Yellowstone sets the stage for 1923 and for 1883 in flashbacks. How? All right, because the character played by Kevin Costner in the primary Yellowstone show. Yellowstone Prime is a Peacock show. Yellowstone Prime is a Peacock show. The other Yellowstone shows and everything else by Taylor Sheridan is a Paramount show. So regular Yellowstone, which is as dirty and filthy as far as the way they talk and act as any show on HBO, has a lot of foul language and stuff like that, and how they can put it on TV, I'll never know. Remember, Geordie LaFord got contacts instead of the visor. Yeah, by that time they can just replace all of your vision with it. So I'm saying, like I already get limited protection off my computer from these blue light absorbing contact lenses. So the idea that a Star Trek character would have goggles that were for anything but keeping things out of your irises is a little ridiculous. And you would figure that everyone has like contact lenses, and we've seen like half of them have some sort of Spies contact lens that gives them like real-time feedback. And is that what Google Glass will be? Is that where we're going with all this stuff? So 1923 and 1883 are spoiled by flashbacks to 1893 at some point in Yellowstone. I'm beginning to watch the Yellowstone shows. There was a Yellowstone marathon, but that was on regular TV. I don't really have access to unlimited Yellowstone in order right now because it's not on Paramount. I have to go to, and I don't have Peacock. I think this is a day that you can watch Peacock for free. I don't know if that promotion is still going on, but I'm going to check out as much Yellowstone as I can. There's only like 50 episodes. That's still 2 days worth of TV night and day, but okay, RTNZ, may we see you again soon, and wish you luck, getting through this personal, social, and, personal thing. And we love you, buddy. And Gavin Blackburn wishes you well, too. All right. So if you watch Yellowstone first, which is the first show to come out in order of time, right? Yellowstone takes place around now. And that spoils things in the sense that in the world of Yellowstone, they flash back to 1883 and tell you what happens to some of the characters. They flash back to the 1923 stuff and let you know a little bit about it. They talk about how long the Duttons have been on the land. They talk about who their traditional enemies have been. So they're a little hemmed in with that. But then they also manage to go backwards and do great stuff with, like, in Yellowstone proper, Joseph Rainwater, I think is his name, is like the local guardian, and he and the local guardians have like a real problem with the Yellowstone people. It mimics real life problems in the real world, but without being a commentary on today's world. The characters are their own. Nobody's good just because of like how they were born. In fact, most Yellowstone people exist in the gray, and their lives and their methods and the way they act are really, really, I'm not going to say sus, but like brutality is just part of the Yellowstone way. And like Rip Wheeler, who Cole Hauser plays, like is a typical character in the Yellowstone world. The Duttons find him as a kid. They slap him around until he starts acting in a Dutton kind of way. If you watch The Godfather, he's like Robert Duvall's Tom Hagen to them. He's connected to the Duttons through just no one else wants him. He escapes from like a state school and he ends up in Beth Dutton's like ranch, and he ends up in the Dutton ranch. I think he's Beth Dutton's husband. He's related in that way to all of them. So that all worked out and made him fit into that world via adoption, right? So there's a lot of Duttons that are going to keep on going forward. Rip Wheeler just like beats people down who get in Kevin Costner's way. That's his role there. So here's the deal with 1923 Season 2. It's coming in February 23rd of 2025 on Paramount. And the major things you need to know is Harrison Ford and Timothy Dalton are at huge loggerheads here. They ended off with a standoff that doesn't seem resolvable, but apparently we're going to climb down long enough for that to have a Season 2. There's not supposed to be a Season 3, so that means we're going to end this pretty hard and pretty... We may already know the ending to this, so watching a lot of Yellowstone, I don't know if it'll diminish my enjoyment, but I'm going to get on it. So it's said to be the final season. Tiona is in 1923. She's a guardian. She escapes from the school, and she heads to the area of Yellowstone. She's going to end up there. We know that. She's most of the way there. Tiona is an ancestor of Joseph Rainwater. Tiona escaped from a school that was run by a religious order that was confusing as to what they were. They never said it outright, but they wear a Catholic clerical garb, and they're being referred to as the church. People are authoritatively saying it's the church and saying it with complete surety that they're Catholics. I had thought that the confusion was on purpose to keep it from being any one group, but certainly history documents that the Catholic Church was guilty in doing these things to the American Guardians. There are books that I have read and first-hand accounts that say it's true. So it's a brutal story, Tiona's story, but it's really enjoyable. You're going to see that one. Spencer's Odyssey. Spencer Dutton's got to get back home. His trip is going to be fraught with danger and adventure. Him and Alexandra are separated right now. And how they're going to get back together in a world where getting to a phone and waiting for a call and trying to hook up with a telegraph and send another telegraph to go to this or that place. I mean, people fell out of touch for decades or forever. We'll never know how many people never saw each other again, you know? I mean, today we have social media and other means. Like, these people, they are separated. He is kicked off the ocean liner in one place. She gets off a little bit after him, but she doesn't know where the hell they dumped him, and he's got a lead on her. He's not trying to avoid her. He just doesn't know she's looking for him because he just gets tossed in the brig and then thrown off the ship. But not thrown off the ship the way he throws Arthur off the ship in one of the coolest fight scenes we've ever seen. So, no wrong is done. The captain, proclaims it no harm, no foul. You weren't supposed to duel in the first place, and he just defended himself. But certainly because the guy that he threw off the ship and who didn't make it, and I found out almost no one who falls off an ocean liner survives. That was what Google told me. That was a Google answer. He fell like 10 stories into the water, and they're moving pretty quick. I think when he hit the water, he was pretty messed up. He'd gotten punched around a little bit, but not to the point where he couldn't swim. But he got tossed, and he was, great stunt. It's fun. That's in 1923. So he's going to have to try to hook up with Alexandra and get home. They need to get there by like the middle of this show to have any kind of meaningful impact on the story, because things are already out of control in Montana. All right, so Alexandra's got a transatlantic journey to reunite with Spencer, and so Spencer is taking a Hemingway-like voyage. He's a Hemingway-like character. They tried to get across the Atlantic. They didn't make it. They wrecked the tugboat they were on. I don't know how they thought they were going to make it. This thing, they get rescued off the capsized boat. The captain of the ship that rescues them marries them in the open sea. So they're married. At that point, they get onto another ocean liner. They're trying like hell to get back to America to have an impact on this, because he's got a letter from his aunt, Kara Helen Mirren. She wrote a letter in the season finale of season 1. It underscores the urgency and desperation. It sets up a narrative of family loyalty and the legacy of preservation for the Yellowstone ranch, which we know they're going to hold on to it, but at what cost? Who's going to make it? And who is who here? Like, who are the parents of the Kevin Costner character? It's not revealed. It seems likely that maybe it's through adoption. It could be Liz and her husband is Spencer. Not Spencer. I'm sorry. Liz's husband is. There are a lot of moving parts. Here's the deal. Liz Strafford is married into the Dutton family. She's married to not Jacob Dutton, it might be James. I think it's John. We lose a Dutton right away. One of the 1883 characters makes it to this show, and about 2 episodes in, we get rid of them. All Taylor Sheridan shows that I've seen have an opening event that happens in the middle of the show, and at some point they overrun it. In 1923, we overrun the opening fairly quickly, 3 episodes in. In 1883, it takes 7 episodes to overrun the opening. So there's a lot of weird and crazy stuff going on. And nobody is safe in any of these shows. He gives equal work to all characters. So when they rug pull you and they get rid of a character, like you never really see it coming. That's the Taylor Sheridan method. But as we go on here through the reasons that I'm thinking that 1923 season 2 is going to be good, and my predictions for it, we've got Banner Creighton. Banner Creighton's the goat herder. He's got sheep and goats. They've been called prairie maggots by Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford's Jacob Dutton's got a lot of power. The family's ensconced in the power structure of the area. And what they're doing is they're using the Land Management Bureau to kind of control the limited resources, because it's been one harsh winter after another, and there's not enough growing back to feed all these cattle that need a wide grazing range, and to feed these new sheep that are like, if you move them around enough, the land will recover. But if they hang out in the same place for a while, it is a wreck, right? So they need even more land than the cattle. How long it takes to recover from the sheep and the goats, hard to say. I don't know if it's desertification 100% of the time, but it's bad on your land. It's bad on your resources. So most of the herds that the Yellowstone people are managing in 1923 are pretty high up in the mountains, so the men are separated from the women. They only get back home in small groups once in a while. A couple of men go home at a time. So while that's going on, the goat herd faction, they lose all their goats. A lot of them get killed by Harrison Ford, who's dangerous and kind of evil in this story. For a guy with a Land Management Bureau badge and nothing more, he takes out a bunch of people with just like crazy like frontier justice. The only way I'm allowed to say it here. Crazy frontier justice that's beyond the pale and totally insane. So that character survives that ordeal, ends up thrown in jail, gets finally bailed out by Timothy Dalton's character, who shows up late, like episode 5 of this 8-episode series, right? So around the middle, Timothy Dalton shows up. He's the man behind the man, which is an enjoyable storytelling trope when done right, because the man behind the man comes out at the right time. Then we find out that his point man and his bad guy, his evil lawyer, and his other guys, his dragon and his whole milieu of people who enable him, they're well directed and well led, because he's a worthy adversary, and he's really, really evil. It's great. Timothy Dalton plays evil better than you'd expect. He's really good in it. So the feud between Banner Creighton and Jacob Dutton is going to escalate, with Whitfield in the picture now, exposed as the real string puller, shot caller, and he's got more cash than anyone. At the end of 1923, we find Timothy Dalton holds the note on the Yellowstone Ranch, okay? He holds the note on the Yellowstone Ranch, and that's going to be a major driving thing on Yellowstone Season 2. He's got the adjoining land that used to be the Stafford Ranch, and they're married to the Staffords now, but they didn't get the land. The Staffords sold and left. The Duttons are going to marry the people they know. They're in this big, wide open country where there's more country than there is people. This land is empty except for the resources and livestock, right? They are in Montana. They are near the Custer battlefield. We're talking Bozeman. So that's what's going on with Banner's Vendetta. Kara's got a plea to Spencer. And as a prequel to Yellowstone and a sequel to 1883, we have the Dutton family weaving their family history to us. It all comports with the stuff that was spoiled in Yellowstone, and that is all woven together with Elsa Dutton's narration. That's Isabel May. She's from 1883. She stays with the series as narrator. So her voiceovers spoil 1883 in the beginning of 1923, okay? But that may have been something we know from Yellowstone, because the revelation of 1923 is something that happened in 1883, which means that we saw it in the flashback because it's not in 1883. The flashback is in 1893, sorry. The flashback from Yellowstone Prime goes to 1893. So this would be after the events of 1883. 1883 is pretty good. It goes more or less how you'd expect. It's a good show. All right. The continuity and connections are Elsa Dutton's narration connecting the timelines. So stay tuned. I'm going to cover all of it. I'll have every step of the Yellowstone 1923 final season. I'll be bringing you updates and watch parties, behind-the-scenes content, and in-depth analysis of the saga. I'm going to try to find as much as I can on this. There's another video essay in the works. The script is written. The video is mostly harvested. I predict it will come out next week on Tuesday because I do a lot of editing on Mondays. Hey, Thetasword, it's great to see you on X over there on the other side. Thank you so much for communicating me from X. There's people who watch there, but X is a lot more passive means of listening. We don't get as much communication. It's good to see you, Thetasword. How are you enjoying Skeleton Crew? We have Skeleton Crew in the channel description for today's show. And I guess before I really get into like a real long time on air here, and I want to thank RRTNs who was here earlier, and thank you. But like, you know what? Our goal here is not one that I want from you. It's a goal for me to deliver to you. It's that I entertain, and I'm trying my best here to do it. And the best way to do it is to come prepared. So, as we look in the channel today's description, what I'm seeing here is that I have a few things set up that I haven't gotten to. So let me just go right with some of that. Ready? All right. There's a Firefly and a Gremlins reboot story out there. Which one you guys want first? Hey, it's your pleasure. Let's see. I just got my friend to grant me access to Disney Plus, and you're going to start watching it soon. There might be one episode left. It was said to be better, but it didn't get a lot of attention. I think Acolyte might have just broken a lot of people's trust or just been too far for some. But, for some, the Disney journey will go on. We might get Outlaw here to do a couple of crossovers to the MCU and Disney soon. And we've been doing NFL with Outlaw, so always a fun time with the Outlaw. But let's go at Firefly first. Firefly, not such a terrible thing. Firefly, it looks bad because Disney's in the mix, and I got this from Tachyon Pulse, okay? Firefly, it ended with the movie, but the movie left the events to happen open. We didn't hard end it. We didn't dust off the Nathan Fillion character. He can come back. The idea is he comes back and he's down and he's low and he's just a little bit on the downside, and he redeems himself. So it's not a Last Jedi. He doesn't start low and go lower and finish off just crashing and burning. He arcs back up in this one. So we've got that going on and that going for us. It's going to be great. To have something more relatable go on if he can get his way. What the fly in the ointment is that Fox became Disney. So a lot of people are saying that Fox and Disney, when they mix them together, they don't mix together well, right? Disney has not proven to be a faithful storyteller. Disney hasn't proven to be a faithful storyteller. And the only good news on this one is it seems like the person with the most juice might just be Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion might have the most juice of anybody involved in this production because his other endeavors after Firefly went really well, and he has no scandal and no problems. Castle runs for years, no problems, make money. This new show, The Rookie, it's running fine. It's going well. The ratings are good. People like it. He's got connections in a couple of different places because of the success of his other projects and because of his own personal popularity. His connection to the Superman movie is one of the few things. Is it Superman he's connected to? He's one of the few things about one of these new projects that people are even interested in, right? So the juice is loose, man. Does anyone hear the dog barking? I'm just curious whether it's bleeding through or not. It's pretty far away, but man, is it ever annoying if you're me. I like dogs, but please, walk the damn thing. Poor dog. This is New York City. Do you know how loud it is if you have dog sensitive hearing? It's just like, I mean, I can live here because I can, but I mean, I just want this dog. Shut up! That's just me, though. I mean, I understand. Hey, you know what? Good fences make good. You can't hear it? Excellent. All right. So it's just my problem to put up with it. You know what? Welcome to New York. That's the way it goes. The Firefly continuation. Disney is the problem, but the best news that we have going for us is that the solution seems to be Nathan Fillion, right? Nathan Fillion can raise Disney out of the game by just saying, well, I'll do my show my way or I won't do it at all. Right now, according to Tachyon Pulse podcast, they're saying that Nathan Fillion is the one who's the driving force behind it and that he wants to return to the role because he likes it. This would seem to say that he's not going to mess it up by being a jerk-off or having the story be about an unenviable person that we can't like, which we've seen done quite a few times across many franchises. So no one wants that again. So, yeah, Nathan Fillion is like, you know, when you've got a guy who just pleases people over and over and over like Nathan Fillion has, you just got to take your hat off to him. Nathan Fillion. My mom likes Nathan Fillion. Okay? Nathan Fillion's able to get my mother interested in a TV show because she likes him in Castle. Nathan Fillion gets me interested in a TV show because I want to see if he's doing something that might be as cool as like some of the other sci-fi work he's associated with, heavily associated with good sci-fi. You know what? Nathan Fillion's acting skills not going to turn anyone away. So because he's had a lot of success, the rumor is Firefly could go very well. Firefly could be exactly what he wants it to be. His vision of it is said to be something that would resonate with fans more than would resonate with modern audiences. Nathan Fillion seems to be in touch with the idea. And Thedazord, thank you so much. And Buddy Hepburn, thank you too for retweeting that I'm live. It makes a big difference, especially in these shorter, more approachable shows where we try to, you know, get across some pop culture news and views and talk about like breaking news. Because you know what? Wow, that David Lynch story took us by surprise. We got 12 votes in the David Lynch poll. 50% of all of you think that he has earned the right to not pay off some stories. 25% say outright no. And 25% of you who answered the poll just wanted to know whether or not the results were and liked the stream. And I thank you. We got 14 likes. This is going to help. The light is only going on now. Now, I'm not going to just like bowl through for 10 hours. Some people can do that, and that's cool. That's their style. I have learned that the occasional upload fends off problems with that. And those indefensible 10-hour streams, and I don't mean indefensible by the creator. I mean that YouTube won't stand up for them. So you've got a real problem when you go that long. If someone wants to give you a hard time, it's going to be just a lot easier for them. And we've seen a bad actor kind of cast a shadow on our usual YouTube programming. I guess now that I've done the Firefly story, that's really all there is to it. There's that much Firefly news. It's that Nathan Fillion seems to be in the driver's seat. He seems to be taking the control of this one, and he seems to be sticking to his guns with a my way or the highway plan. So, in local news, my pal Tony's channel's having some trouble. You should go to that channel and check out some of the upload content to help him out. Here's the story. Tony kind of made his own problems in a way. You don't go bringing back people who are banned for terrible behavior thinking that they've somehow changed their ways. There's a point in time when you have to say to yourself that a person is bad in their heart and that their purposes and their intent will remain bad-hearted. There are people that you cannot take a promise from. Yeah, let's help Tony out. You know what? Let me see if I can. I have the Stark of Iron as a recommend. I believe in my channel recommends. If I don't, I will. It might not be on page 1, but he's in there. Sub to his channel. You can still join his community. It would be cool to help him out. If you want to help me too, I'm available. Yeah, right. We all listen. It's been hard for all of us. It's been a series of setbacks all winter. It's been rough all across YouTube. I'm not going to say I've had it any better or worse than anyone else. I am lucky enough to have a lease and a contract where I live, so with all the bad things come a few advantages. I had no heat for 3 freaking weeks and change. It was a nightmare. I was starting to get really gamey and angry. It was hard just to keep it warm enough here so that the pipes wouldn't burst, because some pipes did burst in this building. That's why I had no heat. But my expenses in that I can claw back through my rent contract, okay? My lease contract is a legal New York lease. There's a lot of stipulations in there, so I'll be okay. I don't need a fundraiser. You know what? Planning your life with some financial discretion is like also a good thing. Like people like definitely do it. Like YouTubers can start doing it anytime too. But here's the deal. Tony got struck for the image of a real enough looking gun, and people who hived off his stream still have it, which proves a human hand did it. Okay? We know who did it. They're out there claiming responsibility. And people who have prayed to this guy, to help them cause problems and to help them sabotage Tony, they're creeps who deserve what they get. And it's bad form and it's uncool. So, you know what? With Tony, he'll be back in a couple of weeks, but it was the image of a real enough toy gun, because I didn't see the moment. It was like 7 hours into the stream or something like that. But I would just say, look at the enemy that he created for himself. A sick meth head who, if I don't like somebody, that's it. I can move on. I can move on from people I don't like. This is a capacity that everybody can develop. I move on. I don't try to relitigate a bad relationship. It had a cord attached to it. Yeah, I heard it had like a... Here's the thing, like, the person who time coded and shot and sent that report in was watching it physically. That was like, they were sitting there watching what was going on, waiting for any excuse. And I've operated under that from day one. And that has been a sabotage on my career. So when someone like Comic Relief Crusader goes out there and publicly prays to a banned YouTuber to give everybody a problem, well, he got de-wrenched by Tony for causing problems and getting in the face of people who were donating to Tony after Tony did that fundraiser. That was just wrong. And he's come after me on his show, and he's come after me on X, and he's come after me live. So that's all I'm going to say about that one. But, like, you know what? Reaching out to banned voices to help you mess up your enemies, that's dishonorable, and that shouldn't be rewarded. And people who, like, countenance that one, you're kind of encouraging all that's worst about YouTube. The drama streaming, the backstabbing. Listen to the Clownfish TV people saying that they don't want anything to do with being going live too often because hanging out with the other YouTubers is so difficult. So what's going on with Tony was he apparently got screenshot in real time, okay? In real time, he got screenshot and time-coded, and within a minute or two, it got acted on. Now, I've been with Tony when this happened before. He got copyright attacked for a karaoke stream. The person who did it screenshotted it, took credit for it, and it was the same situation as the last time. Other people hived off the stream to their channels, and they have the stream still. So there's nothing actually wrong with the stream. Like, it was detectably fake enough for the AI and the bots and the pattern recognition stuff to recognize it as fake. I believe it had enough parts of it that were the wrong color to, sell it as fake. So it was a bad faith report. And the person who does this stuff is a bad faith person. And if you're friends with them, you are also of bad faith. And I can't trust you, and no one should trust you, and there's no coming back from that many broken promises. How many times can you stick a YouTuber that everyone likes face onto a hated war criminal from World War II Germany and say that that's just one of those things? And that YouTuber shouldn't be so quick to forgive them either. But that's where we're at with that one. I think that Tony will be all right when he comes back, but I told him that he should, this upload will help him. I have told him that he should continue to do uploads, and I am a while between uploads and just coming off a shadow ban. So that's my situation here. That's what's going on with Admiral Teag. I am thinking about another Yellowstone watch party to finish our 1883 journey. I finished it. They explain the time compression to a degree. It gets to the point where we understand what's going on well enough, and I enjoyed 1883 a lot. Is it a good story? It is not a Hollywood ending. It is not an upbeat story. It is not for the faint of heart. Every character gets equal work. You never see it coming when someone is going to, buy the farm, as it said. You don't see it coming. They set up all characters equally. So when the end comes, that's it. You're done. But let me see if I can just very quickly get through the rest of what I had today. We did not talk about the Gremlins rumors. Look, the movie Small Soldiers sort of proves that there is no Gremlins in the future unless it was sold off. Gremlins can only work if it was sold off to other people, because the writer of Gremlins is the Home Alone writer, and he goes on to have great success. And no one wants to pay him. Gremlins 2 doesn't have Chris Columbus on it, right? Chris Columbus moves on. He owns a chunk of Gremlins, though. It does have Robert Picardo from Star Trek, though. Gremlins 3 was already sort of made. Gremlins 3 is actually the team who made Gremlins got together again, and they made Small Soldiers. Small Soldiers is Gremlins 3. He will be back and better than ever. I hope so, and I wish it for him. Help out my pal. And, if you want, help out me, too. Things aren't perfect here. Do I need financial assistance? No. But I do need social media assistance. I need as much social media sharing and as much reposting and as much as I can get. On X, repost it. Tell it on YouTube, share it, let people know, like the stream, help me get my message out. 14 likes is great. 15 would be even greater. And you know what? In our poll, David Lynch, did he earn the right not to pay off some stories? At 14 votes, 57% say yes. Only 21% say no. And 21% of you lovely people, wonderful listeners, were nice enough to like and endorse the stream. And don't call me Sharon. Ozzy's daughter got in trouble today. Not in trouble. Ozzy's daughter made the news for calling out people like Harry and Meghan for doing photo ops in front of for the LA fires. Terrible stuff. Shouldn't be done. Keep Harry and Meghan, just keep away from them. They're not fun. That story, you know what? They're England's problem. Moving on. I think it was Ozzy's other daughter. We know there are two daughters, Kelly and Amy, right? That's with Sharon. Kelly is the one that we're most familiar with. She's younger. I think Kelly would clock in at about 43 now. Sharon's other daughter with Ozzy is called Amy. Sometimes if you watch the old Osborne show, you would see another person in the room and they wouldn't talk, or you'd hear them laughing or reacting, and you'd see maybe the back of them leaving the room a lot. Kelly Osborne wanted to be on the show. Amy Osborne didn't. I think it was Amy Osborne who reacted. She does not resemble Kelly Osborne that strongly. She looks more like Ozzy. Kelly looks more like her mother. And her mother's original look. But I mean, it's an ongoing... let's just say that Sharon Osbourne's a familiar facelift. And can you please let my poor hero Ozzy retire? already. I mean, he's so damn old. But that's with Gremlins. I mean, they seem like they tried to crash and burn the whole thing with a crazy final movie. And tell me that's not supposed to be Trump in Gremlins, which is weird because in Gremlins 2 and Home Alone 2, one, you have a Trump stand-in in Mr. Clamp, and in Home Alone 2, you have actual Trump, right? Because he's in, he meets Kevin in New York for a minute there. And yeah, Small Soldiers is everyone but Chris Columbus. It's Joe Dante, and I think Spielberg was the producer who backed it. So it's the producers, and it's a new writer. There's a different writer on Gremlins too, but they had to give Chris Columbus credit because he origins the characters and stuff. So what do? We throw the neighbor from the kooky neighbor from Gremlins is in Small Soldiers. He works for the toy company that delivers the Small Soldiers. The Small Soldiers and the Gremlins are interchangeable. With the Small Soldiers, what they do is they put microchips in their brains from the defense industry because the Cold War is over. The movie's from '97, folks, almost 30 years old, right? That's your plot, that they have Cold War tech and that the soldiers become like little battle robots that are like kind of mean and evil, and they're small soldiers. All they know is how to be soldiers, and they launch a military mission, and they're pretty mean, and they start brainwashing the Barbie dolls. Man, the woman who watched Barbie should see Small Soldiers. If you're sick from watching Barbie, the cure for that is Small Soldiers. And if you watch it carefully, Robert Picardo from Star Trek walks in. He's the emergency medical hologram from Voyager. And he tells them how they screwed up with the military chips and they shouldn't do it. So use this password. And the password is Gizmo, which is your primary gremlin, right? So they're basically telling you this is Gremlins 3. And the daughter is, of all people, Kirsten Dunst. She's 19, but she's playing like 15. The plot probably got canceled because the kid was going to boom a place. That was why the kid had to move and his family was new in town. He had to go to a different high school for being antisocial. And it's basically like in this story, it was in Small Soldiers, the question is kind of beautiful. In the end, it's kind of beautiful. It's like he didn't outgrow his toys. He and his toys outgrew each other at the same time. He was ready to let the toys go, and the toys were ready to go on without him. It presages Toy Story. Small Soldiers is a very good story. Also, the hot mom from Small Soldiers, the redhead, it's sheer effing hubris lady from Star Trek. So go in knowing that. Crazy stuff, right, guys? So at any rate, that's what's going on with Small Soldiers. And you would have to be able to sell off the property of Gremlins to get anyone to do it. There's not going to be a future for a Gremlins that's a collaboration. These guys just don't want to collaborate anymore. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen, okay? It's not happening. There's not going to be a collaboration. It's over for the people. They just want to sell it off. I don't think Chris Columbus is going to be involved. Maybe he'll advise some people, but what's to know? Don't feed them after midnight. Don't get them wet. I mean, they could have done a lot more. It was a franchise that really, some of the creators wanted no part of. Otherwise, there would have been a lot more. The other story is a fun one. This is Queens local news. It turns out that Sally Struthers says she was fat-shamed by Betty White. Gloria, as we call her from now on, since she's Gloria Bunka from All in the Family. This counts as Queens local news, guys. It's a New York story. She's a Queens local by association. She didn't quite find a pal in the late, amazing Betty White, who made it to 99 years, 11 months, and 3 weeks. And she was hilarious. Betty White, she owned George Takei and William Shatner in the William Shatner roast. And they're I don't like George Takei, but this was before he went crazy. He was still pretty witty and pretty funny, and she just destroyed him. And he loved it too. He was thanking her for it. She fed him his lunch. What did she say? Everyone knows that Bill's got balls, but Sulu's actually. Then she said she did. Actually, he's tasted them, and both of them are cracking up. So that was great. Betty White could give as good as she got, but turns out that Gloria told Larry Saperstein and Jacob Bellotti on their podcast that she felt fat shamed by Betty. When Betty told her, they're at a situation in Betty's home, no less. It turns out they're neighbors, and that Sally Struthers lived right up the street from the Golden Girls' house, but I think it's only the exterior, right? Because obviously it's a set. So they both lived in that area. I don't know what part of Cali it is, right? But they were just like neighbors, and they were at a party, and it's like Betty White was like talking to Sally, and we all have seen what Sally Struthers looks like and why she could no longer do the fundraising for like children in need of help, right? Food, right? Food shortages. It's that Sally just doesn't look like she's missed a meal, unfortunately, right? Whatever. Like that's she's older now anyway. Like, you know, it's no big deal. But like she was grabbing like a cookie from the buffet, and she told this story that Betty White said to her, "You know what, sweetie? Maybe just skip the cookie." Just skip the cookie. You don't look like you need one. Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you, dear. You don't need a cookie. That was the quote from Betty White. All right. Now Gloria felt it was a bit harsh, and she called it passive aggressive. You know what? At least she had the nerve to tell you to her face instead of leaving, like waiting until you left the room. Like comedians have been teeing off on you since the '80s. Sally Struthers, come on, you're not going to get away with saying it was mean. Let's give Betty the benefit of the doubt on this one. She was a queen of comedy, okay? Loved for her wit. She was very witty in her ability to make people laugh, and you should be able to laugh at yourself. I can laugh at being Cuban. I can laugh at being kooky. I can live with being from New York and all the stuff that comes with it, right? So she was also famous for her warmth and hospitality. Who gave the buffet? Whose party was it? I think it was Betty's, right? So she turned her home into kind of a place of laughter and joy. So laugh at yourself, Sally. You know, in this scenario, she was just being engaging in the sort of lighthearted banter that neighbors share. Look what she said to William Shatner. You know, I guess Gloria, she didn't know how it was going to land, but Betty White's legacy is always going to be one of kindness and charity, making people feel included, not ostracized. This incident's an outlier, okay? It's a comedic misfire. You tell a lot of jokes, someone's going to take one the wrong way. So while Gloria felt slighted, I'm on Betty's side. It was just an attempt at jovial moment that didn't quite hit the mark for the person. All right, so just calm down there, you know, Gloria. It'll be okay. Elvis's granddaughter went to jail when she was 12 years old. That was today's other story. Riley Keough's really gorgeous. I'll take a moment to show her to you. It's uncanny. Like, she looks so much like Elvis. Look at Riley. This is Elvis Presley's granddaughter. Daughter of the late Lisa Marie. That passing really hit me hard. I was so sad to lose Lisa Marie. And you know, how sad for Priscilla Presley as well, who's, you know, to outlive her daughter. But this is Riley Keough last year. Riley Keough, actress, great stuff. She was in the last Mad Max movie that anyone wanted to see. From Here to the Great Unknown she's a co-author of that one, and she explained her running with the law happened when she was a minor, and to this day she's never actually seen her own mugshot. But look how much she looks like Elvis, man. She looks more like Elvis than her mother. She looks a lot like the King, man. It's uncanny. Riley Keough, now 35 years old. She is great in her realm. She does good stuff. She's great in Furiosa's first appearance in Road Warrior, when it's an actual Road Warrior story. I thought they'd do better with that Furiosa thing, but one of the biggest washouts of last year for sure. So Firefly, that looks like it's, you know, Disney's the only fly in the ointment. If Disney can keep from messing it up, maybe we'll have something good going on. And the absurd Gremlins rumors, I addressed that. Small Soldiers is a testimony that it'd have to be new people, in my opinion. But I did not listen to all of the information from that Park Place and WDW Pro. They remain up front in that one. What's with this crazy X-Men casting? It's a stunt for sure, right? With Cynthia Erivo? I don't get it. I'll talk more about this one. I'll get into a little bit of detail on that one, but before I do that, I think what I need is the Admiral Teag intro. It's a little more of a mega intro. It gives me a moment to refresh my drink. I'll be back in under 90 seconds.
And if not a hero, he's a criminal.
Hail Radioactive as my YouTube feed goes down on the other side. It's good to see you here. That was not actually the beginning of the show. That was my little break. Just like Doomcock likes to do sometimes, I came here on my own, solo. It's going to be straight Admiral Teag for the rest of the way out on weekdays. Probably not going to be co-host. We will have a guest. Coming up next week, we have Sub-Commander Tall. He hasn't committed to Tuesday or Thursday, but he'll be here. And next week or the week after, also, Roman of the Empire, combining his Star Wars knowledge with my Star Trek disdain. And we will talk about how both of those have just made a huge mess. But hail Radioactive. I tried to type out the whole hail, but that's as much as my YouTube did before it crashed. Yes, we have another badge change. People on the top level have the Mirror Universe badge. The badge levels are as follows. Let me see if I can sum this up for you. Here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to modernize the badges. I wanted to make them look good. I wanted to give you the best possible badges. It was ongoing. It took a couple of tries. There's size requirements. There's appropriateness requirements, and hey, somebody joined the show. Thank you to the person who joined. It is very nice of you, and I thank you very much. Sound off if you're out there. But here's the deal with the badging, okay? They're the only perk I can change. So, if you're a new member, you now have the gold badge with the red logo. That is for the new members. This is so I can tell people from another, and also so that I can celebrate what we do and the evolution of this channel, right? So we started out with Star Trek, so the pretty normal average Star Trek logo there. The next Star Trek logo after a month, and you keep that for 30 days, for your second month here, is red, white, and blue to express some patriotism and how I feel. That's the badging explained. At 6 months, you get the black and gold Star Trek logo. That one stays for a year. At 12 months, you get the Mirror Universe Enterprise logo, which I myself created and customized off of a patch. And I am deeply considering getting myself like a Mirror Universe like biker jacket with like the badging on it and shit, and just like walking around unironically with that and like an Enterprise patch on it. Like I might need like a black leather flight jacket for my Enterprise badging. But that's where we are right now at the badging. I hope you guys like it. As far as emojis, we've reworked the emojis. If you look, Shran is going to be changed over fairly soon. Earth First is going to come back when we get to that storyline. NXO1 is going to stay. Bird of Prey 5 stays. Patton stays. The United States flag stays. Hoshi, now more important than ever because we have a Linda Park introduction. Remember stays. Sydney Sweeney stays. Rage stays. Team Hoshi and Team DePaul, they stay, and agree with the Admiral stays. Those are your like emojis and badges, and that's how we're doing it. And I won't be able to change it for another 12 months or so. If I get another 6 or 7 members, I will get another badge. So we'll get another GIF. I think we're 6 or 7 away. I'm not sure, but guys, join the community, the best way to show support. There will be a community video released later in the week. I have to tread the fine line between copyright and non-copyright, and also some of the ideas I have for you guys blow up into ideas that need to be shared. Because when I put 30 hours into a video essay, I want to get it out there for everyone. But welcome. And yeah, Team Hoshi has taken a big, big lead on Team DePaul. Until Jolene Blaylock makes her video, I know people who claim to know Jolene Blaylock, and the reason I believe them is because they know a lot of people who are just Hamptons area, like, wealthy people. Like, if you're from New York like I am, and you go to school out on the Long Island like I did, and you meet friends, because I open up another Coke, and you make friends on Long Island like I have, and you're in the music industry as far as, you play music and you do the rock and roll thing. You're going to find people, know people, and you're going to know people who become, successful musicians in the Hamptons. My friend does like music in the Hamptons. He's met like Trump Jr. Maybe he's met Trump. Like, I'm always like kind of curious, but he says he's ran into Jolene Blaylock. And he says that she's really nice. And she says that she's about everything but Star Trek. She doesn't really care too much. She doesn't talk about her Hollywood career. And she's married to like the Ticketmaster Clear Channel guy, right? Like whatever they're called. I always get like Clear Channel and Comcast confused because the names sound so much the same and I have to keep track of so many businesses at this job. So I didn't think I'd be a business news reporter, but that's where it's at, right? That's life these days. So at any rate, we unpacked 1883 and 1923. Radioactive. You want to jump in here tomorrow with me and do 1883, maybe tomorrow in the evening? We can finish out 1883 or just do a couple of things with that one. We could maybe talk about that one. I'll back channel you, and also, like I said, a little more solo Admiral Teag. It makes it easier for me to communicate directly with you, and when I have the right co-host, I'll have it. But like a more engaged show, more about you. You're gonna see me when you come here, and that's what hey, that's the name of the channel, right? So like Team DePaul will need to do a cameo for Admiral Teag now just to keep up. Here's the thing. If my friend who knows her can get her to agree to it, maybe he could just pull out his phone and get her to do it like real quick. Like from what I understand, she has like Hamptons property. If you're East Coast and you got a bunch of dough and you're Northeast, right? You go to the Hamptons or you go to Martha's Vineyard in Boston. As you go down the coast, you got the Jersey Shore, you got Rehoboth Beach, you got Cape May, going further and further south. You've got the beaches in Maryland, outside Baltimore. You've got Virginia, Washington, D.C., the area of Virginia Beach, all down the East Coast until you get to Florida where you got the Keys. And there's always these outlier islands, these places that can be isolated from everyone else that the wealthy gravitate to. Martha's Vineyard's on a peninsula. The Hamptons are on the far east end of Long Island. You can kind of keep people out. You can see Connecticut from the north shore of Long Island. Long Island, like they said in The Big Lebowski, terminal moraine formed by, a glacier. When the glacier melted, this was the farthest edge. These rocks are from Canada. So at any rate, Long Island Sound, not so deep. You can keep people out of the Hamptons. So it's really wealthy people gravitate to Martha's Vineyard, the Hamptons, and places like the Florida Keys, right? Also mixed in with them are normal people and average people who are just there generationally, and that there are towns for middle-class people there. The sin of Long Island is that there's no jobs and work in the middle of Long Island, and there's no jobs and work in Nassau County, really, except the county government. They drove off Canon cameras. They drove off even their sports team, the Islanders. Nassau County, last I heard, and I don't know if this has changed, was rumored to be the only place in the world not allowed to have an NHL team for the way they treated the Islanders with a 20-year scam where they kept changing their building and disapproving of the architecture over and over till the Islanders left. The Islanders are now in the edge of Queens. Islander fans didn't handle it well, but that's the deal. That's what happened. Here's my plan. 8 o'clock Eastern time, maybe 9. Yeah, let's call it 9 o'clock Eastern time. Because I do plan on having a hello show tomorrow, then taking some time off and coming back and doing Yellowstone as a watch party, independent of that. The older Yellowstone watch parties for 1923, sometimes they turned into a regular show and they went really long. We want to focus the watch parties on the recap at the beginning and the roundtable discussions at the end. So Radioactive, I think you'll love the end of 1883, but you can give us some geographic verisimilitude, a word which you cannot type into the chat on my channel. I ban the word verisimilitude because the guy who struck Tony's channel loves to use that to sound smart. It's a real word with real meaning. I don't condemn everyone who uses it. I condemn the pseudo-intellectual who use it as a cudgel against people. Verisimilitude is a word for continuity. We can just call it continuity. We don't need to figure out how to spell it. I had to ban the word. Spelling it wrong and using it is better than using the word right. I banned that word here because that's censorship. What can I tell you? I also banned some real evil words here too. Yeah, the V word. I had to ban some real like pejorative words here too because there was no. I mean, I can't say them, and I can't be responsible for them in my chat. And bad actors were coming in here and putting them into the chat to hurt people and harm people. There's a lot of you. The worst sabotage and the worst problems on YouTube comes from other YouTubers. The guy who struck Tony's channel, and we all know who it is, was somebody who was gone and not a problem. The only reason they were able to strike the channel is because they knew the rules of YouTube from getting struck themselves from being a terrible YouTuber and a bad actor who defamed and attacked people. The person, in my opinion, is nothing more than a common criminal. Striking people's channels is evil and low rent, and it's the last resort and the lament of the loser. It's something that I have never done. I have never reported any of these channels, no matter what they've said about me, because, well, you know what? Freedom of speech. And you know what? With some of the things they said, how would they have lasted if I had? It was J Sci-Fi Nation who took out the offending channel for stealing his work. All right? So a guy who stole intellectual property. Now, did Tony spill blood where the vampire had been done in? Yeah. I mean, some of this is on him for bringing the guy back. But honestly, when you bring back a known malfeasant guy who's going to cause problems, you know, he's going to cause problems. The leopard doesn't change his spots. And they've been banned from this community since day one because I take a sense of ownership and I take a sense of protection. And I am not so much your leader as I am the guy who runs this channel. And if you're good enough to listen to me, you know what? You've already got me on your side. I will go to bat for you. If the guy from Star Trek Discovery wants to say shit about your parents, I'm going to get right in there and tell him he's a jackass. And you know what? The guy who plays the doctor from STD should not have spoken like that to DevMag. It made me offended. So if you subscribe to my channel and someone attacks you on behalf of the things that you subscribe to this channel for, like Star Trek, I'll be right there backing you up, okay? But saying a prayer to a banned YouTuber to mess everybody up, and then a couple of days later, Tony's on the rocks. I mean, we all saw the prayer on X. Comic Relief Crusader said, please help me fuck people up, Captain Infinity. And what happens? Tony gets fucked up within days. All right, so we know who did it, and we know who inspired it. Oh, it's the last time I had to really engage with this, and I hate talking about it, but what else can you do? Because it's the reality we live in. And we've got a person who's now struggling for their livelihood. People have to stop amplifying people that they know aren't going to change. If you've been thrown off YouTube for violations of terms of service that are involved being hateful, if you're only on X because you're able to like sort of skirt it by like selectively deleting hateful things, if you've made a meme of anti-derivative Jill where you've put her face onto Frau Goebbels, Mustache Man #1 deputy's wife who deleted her own children, and you've put that out there on X, you should be promoted. You should be taught. You know what? There's a point where there's something called bad faith. Don't trust people who have bad faith, all right? And this is a lot of people, they're woke, all right? A lot of the woke people operate in bad faith, and they're unaware of it. Now, this guy, is he woke? I don't know. He's doing the work of the wokies by sabotaging Tony, by stalking and sabotaging me. These two guys, these cohorts, who work together to fuck up other channels and openly coordinate on X, talking about how much they admire each other, where you got one guy saying a prayer to the other to mess up YouTubers. That is some crazy fucking shit. And you're a jackass for doing it. And that, you know what? As far as the Tony situation goes, Tony was playing with fire. But at least he wasn't focusing it on other people. Tony took his own risks. You want to juggle sweaty dynamite? It's going to go off sooner or later. I hope that the lesson is learned. And Tony, after this, I would say this. What you need to do really is starve this of all light and attention. And in about 25 weeks, this guy needs conflict to fucking live. So it's just going to be, it's going to move on. And Radioactive says, Admiral Teag loves a winner and hates yeah. You know what? Let's get the proper sound for that. Why do we have media assets if not for times like this when we get fed these great comments from our pals? You know what? They say I'm insane.
Defending the city. We're attacked by 3 Roman.
They say I'm insane. It's not true. Admiral Teag loves a winner, and I cannot stand a loser. Those people at Trek Culture know as much about Star Trek as they do about fornicating. When they come and ask you what you did when Infection 31 came on, yo, you won't have to say I shoveled shit in Louisiana. All right, that's the way it is with that one. So please support my pal, sub to his channel. He's undersubbed. You know what? Like the download, listen to it. If you don't have time to listen to it, at least like it. That'll get it out there more. Like my stream, please help me out. And let's see, did David Lynch earn the right not to pay off some stories? It looks like yes is a whopping winner. Those of you who voted and liked the stream, yes, no, or see results, those of you who did, I thank you so much for this wonderful interaction. And I thank you very much for the 16 likes. 17 would be even greater-ish. I would love to get out of here with 20 if I could, but maybe we'll make it there. Those of you who come by later, this show is being kept approachable for you. The poll is ending in just seconds, guys. You have just moments left to exercise your right. We have 15 votes, 53%. Yes, he's earned the right. 27% no. David Lynch did not earn the right. He's the original mystery box guy, but he did it with such aplomb. And he told you up front, yeah, this isn't going to make a whole lot of sense. And that was the it was at least compelling. Acting like there will be a payoff to keep our attention is empty art. The real art of David Lynch was that he said, look, man, I'm gonna abandon most conventional filmmaking tropes, and I'm gonna go in my own way. I'm gonna be really strange, and sometimes I'll make a real movie that makes sense and is real cohesive, and you'll be able to get right through it, and there'll be no problem. And other times it'll be weird as fuck, and you won't know when you walk in whether or not it is. And that's just the way David Lynch does, lives life. He's lynching and grinching. What can I tell you? David Lynch, a great filmmaker, left us too soon. And you know what? Hopefully, that will end the Twin Peaks the way it should be. If his daughter wants to take it up and write a book, she's the originator of the idea. Anyone else, unwelcome. That's one franchise I don't think will be touched because it didn't make sense. On the other side of the coin, that's one franchise you could see people wanting to go after and mess with because you have license to go on not making sense. The thing is, David Lynch was a true artist of film and cinema, and the people doing this hoodwink filmmaking now, they just aren't. They just aren't. So at any rate, I thank everybody. I end our poll. Our poll ends with the final results being, did David Lynch earn the right not to pay off some stories? 53% of you said yes, and I thank you very much. Thank you for the likes. A couple more would be even better. I've been on the chats greeting and saying hi to people. Do me a favor, check out my pal Check out Gavin Blackburn. He's great. By the way, last night, if you know Dave C., check out his channel. He's doing the Galactica comics they did a comic run of Galactica 1980. I'm guessing these people had nothing but story people. It was nothing but art people, and they were developing. Maybe they got thrown off the Transformers run, because think of your licensing. You license Galactica, but you license Galactica 2.0, right? 1.0, and you take the least popular iteration of it. So you really got that licensing fee down. But at the same time, it's like in episode 2, in issue 2, you destroyed the Galactica, and you destroy the Galactica, and you destroy everything that you're fighting for, and you have 6 or 8 Cylon base ships heading towards Earth. Where are you going to go from here? No wonder this thing only made it 4 issues, right? I mean, it's not reliable, and it didn't make sense. Why do you destroy your titular thing, your Battlestar Galactica that you paid money for? Why blow it up right away? It was a decent review. I endorse the review. I'm not too crazy about the comics. The original Battlestar Galactica comics, the Marvel ones, those are good. Those are better than the show. This Battlestar Galactica 1980 comic, it was like, it's always fun to explore a comic and see whether it's good or not and what it has. Some comics have a lot of story. Other comics have a lot of, have a lot of just art. This guy who is doing the Battlestar Galactica 1980 comic, he didn't have very good story. He didn't have very good art. He went for spectacular as much as he could. The only thing I could think of is the Viper's launch from the Galactica before it's destroyed by one nuclear weapon, which is something that we didn't see in old BSG. But before I go, your friend tours a Cannibal Corpse. Cannibal Corpse is pretty good. Who's your friend? My buddy's in the band Becoming Wolves. They're the second most added college radio band of all time of this week. Check out Becoming Wolves. Their song is really good. My buddy's the guitar player. He's freaking awesome. He's almost as good as me. But Saving Star Trek is brought to you by the genius of Gene Roddenberry. Today we got sidetracked into the loss of David Lynch. May he rest in peace, a great artist. And by the generosity of fans like you, including our friend RRTNZ, who gave us a very generous $10 New Zealand super chat. I thank him. I thank all of you for watching. Thank you for enduring me, and I hope to see you back here on tomorrow, Friday, where I have 2 shows planned. One before Doomcock to say hi, and one somewhat later on around 10:30, where we could, 9 to 10 New York time, where we could take a look into the world of Yellowstone. I'm thinking maybe 9. But I will communicate with all of you about that. Thank you all for being here. Tweet out the stream. And if you're coming through later, hit those like and follow buttons. Make a comment. Keep the stream going. Help me come back from this problem that I got from the YouTube overlords. And I will see you tomorrow. And don't forget, Saturday night, Star Trek Enterprise. And do not use hashtag Section 31. It is evil. They're lies. Straight from the pit of hell. All right. I love you all. You've earned this. You've earned a couple of things. You've earned the right to. Hey, by the way, look, this is me watching TV. That's me. That's me watching every Jet game. This is beautiful Sydney Sweetie. You've earned a double dose of her. Hey.
She was attacked by what appears to be essentially a robot.
I am not a robot. I am a man.
Shut up!
All right. I'll end the show. You guys have earned 44 seconds of Sydney Sweeney. I love you all.
Hot milk. Hot milk.